Good evening. I'd like to call the regular City of Vacaville Parks and Recreation Commission meeting for May 1, 2024 to order and ask Secretary Florencia Reyes to please call roll.
Commissioner Oz?
Here.
Commissioner Berman? Commissioner Gutierrez?
Here.
Commissioner Shea?
Here.
Vice Chair McMahon?
Here.
Chair Vasquez?
Here. And if we could please move on to agenda item 2, correct? Yep, swearing in of the new commissioner. Sorry, everybody was ready to get up to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Is item 2. So we can invite Michelle up, right? Correct? Yes? Should I turn on podium mic? Oh.
Repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Mark Frazier,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to support and defend
to support and defend
the Constitution of the United
the
States
Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic.
foreign and domestic,
And I will bear true faith and allegiance
and I will bear true
to the Constitution of the United
faith to
States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California.
and the Constitution of the State,
That I take this obligation freely,
that I take this obligation
without any mental reservation
without mental reservation
or purpose of evasion.
or purpose of evasion,
And I will well and faithfully
and I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I am. Thanks.
All right, and we'd like to formally welcome Commissioner Mark Frazier to the Parks and Recreation Commission. Welcome. Okay, now we can please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right, thank you, everyone. So moving right along to agenda item 4, approval of the agenda. Everyone's had a chance to review. Staff, are there any corrections or amendments?
No changes, Chair.
Great. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, so motion by McMahon and second by Berman. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the agenda is approved. So approval of minutes. So these are the minutes from the regular meeting of March 6, 2024. Does anyone have any revisions to the minutes, or staff, are there any corrections? Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
A second?
Second.
Okay, so motion by Oz and second by McMahon. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. And item 6, communications. Director Megger Smith, have we received any communications for the commission?
There was one piece of communication, and you should have all received a flyer from the Vacaville People's Forum.
Thank you so much. And we will move right along to presentations. Agenda item 7A, special events and cultural arts, presented by Recreation Coordinator Kristen Milligan.
Good evening, commissioners. It's nice to see all of you. Let me go ahead and get the PowerPoint loaded. By the way, I feel like now is a really good time to just say thank you to you all, because I know that you have such a presence at our events, whether you're a judge or helping out in some other capacity. Thank you again for always being so present at the events that we have for our community. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So I am the recreation coordinator. My name is Kristen. I oversee 2 program areas. I oversee our cultural arts programming, which I'm going to talk about first. And then I also oversee special events, so community-wide events for the city of Vacaville. So our current class offerings for cultural arts, we've got our music classes, which have guitar, violin, our cello, piano, ukulele, and then we also have School of Rock camps. And some of our School of Rock camps, I know we have a Rockin' Rookies camp, and that is serving our kids that are ages 5 to 7 years old. We also have our ballet class, which has multiple levels, and then also our singing classes, which is private and group lessons. So the private lessons are actually a new addition that the instructor was able to add, and those are virtual. Oh, and you didn't see any of those, but that's okay. Now you see them. Some of our other class offerings, we've got our acrylic paint classes. The Painter's Choice Workshop, which is offered once a month. And then we also have our all levels painting class, which is going to be more like a class that meets on a weekly basis. And that way you can get better at all your painting skills. We also have our art and activity led by Linda Holloman. And she's got our art and science, sculpt and mold, origami and paper crafts, blooming art, the science of seeds, and then plus making machines. She uses some ordinary objects for that last one, the making machines. She uses cardboard and toilet paper rolls and tape, and they create something. And those of you that I may have had conversations with, my son, actually, he goes through our recycling often, and he would be great in that class for that very reason. Building always. And we also have one of our other current class offerings. We have a theater class, which is offered through the Young Artists Conservatory of Music, and they are currently offering a jazz improv camp. Other class offerings, we have dance. We have a Western line dance class that's happening right now. It's been very popular. It just kicked off this year. So March, our attendance was about 30 people, which was great. And then this last month in April, it was about 25. I know the instructor is looking, because our numbers are so high, she's thinking maybe we need to do a beginner, intermediate, and advanced, and really cater to the different levels. And then finally, we have our cricket class. So a Design Your Own Earth Day celebration, or Mayflower Power. So some of our other new class offerings we have from the acrylic paint classes. We have the watercolor design for beginners, a mixed media art, and turn your photo into a painting, which sounds exactly as it's described. And then we also have an art and activity class, a new one which is poetry and creative storytelling. And then finally, our ballet class. The instructor, what we were noticing is that the wait list was getting pretty long. And so what she was able to do is split that introductory level into 2 different classes so that we could accommodate those waitlisters. So increase our enrollment. Some of our accomplishments with cultural arts programming, we have acquired some new contractors, and we continue to acquire those new contractors, such as the Young Artists Conservatory of Music. We do have more to come, more on the horizon. We were also able to showcase some of our classes and camps during our Recreation Expo, and the instructors that had been there the year prior, they did notice an increase in their enrollment for their camps. And then finally, as I mentioned earlier, we have had some class expansion with ballet. Some of our challenges is acquiring contractors for our programs, always. I know that some of the ways that we try and get new contractors is we typically will have something in the events guide, or we'll do a social media shout out looking for new contractors, and sometimes they just happen organically. I know what I've noticed is because of my relationships within the community with special events, sometimes that can also be an opening for them to also want to work at the events, but also work for the city of Vacaville. And then, of course, competition. I know we have another ballet school that's within walking distance to McBride. Do you have any questions or comments about cultural arts?
Any commissioner questions or comments for Kristen on cultural arts?
Okey doke.
Okay, seeing none, move on to special events.
All right. I love the magic of the two screens. I just got two screens, and it is life-changing. It has been fantastic. I won't ever go back. Side note. All right. I will make sure that I move forward in my slide. I feel like I did that last year, too. How fun. All right, so my second program area that I oversee is special events, and I love special events. So let me talk about some of our special events, our community favorites. And really, they're all community favorites. So we've got our Bunnies and Bonnets event that we just had at the end of March. And it was a success. It did rain, but rain does not stop our community from coming. One thing that we did this year that was a little different for Bunnies and Bonnets, just to make it even safer. In the past, we had 3 different age groups. Excuse me. We had 3 different age groups, but the start time for the egg hunt was all at 11:30. Well, it's really hard to manage the crowd when everybody's coming at the same time. And so what we did differently this year is we still had those 3 age groups, but we had all day long while supplies last. And so it just brought the calm to the event. It wasn't a race. Everybody could come at their own pace, and we got some really good feedback from the community. So it was a great event. Our next event on the horizon is our VACA Tri. It's a youth triathlon. It's for the kids ages 7 to 14 years old, and it's going to be at the Walter Graham Aquatic Center. And the cost is $35 per person, and they do have to register in advance this year. I know last year we were going to do day of registrations, and we're not doing that this year, so just in advance. And then Creek Walk concert series, I'm sure you're all aware of. That's happening in like a month and a half. Can you believe it? Summer is knocking on our door. So it kicks off, Creek Walk's going to kick off this year on Friday, June 14th. And it runs all summer long until August 9th, 6:30 to 9:30 p.m. It's $3 for everybody, oh golly, 13 and up, and 12 and under are free. There it is. And then we have our 4th of July fireworks show and concert. And our major concert this year is going to be Quad City DJs and Club Nouveau. And our VIP did open today. So if you are interested in having, in participating in that VIP option, it is, let me bring up some of the pricing. So the major concert, so I'll back up just a little bit. So Quad City DJs and Club Nouveau, general admission pricing is going to be $20 in advance, $25 at the door. If you want to do the VIP option, you can get a table of 8 for your bestest friends and yourself. And you get a VIP meet and greet. So you'll get an air-conditioned environment where you can go and meet the band, do the meet and greet, do autograph signings, take a picture, and then you get that advance entry into the park, and you don't have to stand in a line. So that's a plus. And for that is going to be $325 for a table of 8. Like I said, registration has opened today, and we already have 1 registration. We do also have a $50 individual VIP option, and that includes the same thing. It's just for 1 person, though, and you're not having a table with maybe your bestest friends, but you're going to meet some new people. And then we have our Halloween that's coming up on, it's not coming up that fast, on Saturday, October 26th. And that's our pet parade and costume contest. And, I don't know if I want to say it quite yet. Maybe not yet. I'm going to hold that to the next slide. And then Dia de los Muertos, we had it. This is going to be our 3rd year. Last year we had it, and we were able to expand it. More on that coming. And then finally, our Neighborhood Santa, which is a parade around our neighborhood parks. Okay, now I get to expand. So some of the updates I have for the Halloween event, we were able to add some new layers to this event. We added the tennis ball toss, and it was sponsored by Solano Tennis, which is one of our contractors working with youth sports. And then I also was able to add bobbing for tennis balls, which was really cute and fun. The dogs loved it. Great place to drop off your dog. It was almost like a doggy daycare. So added the bobbing for tennis balls, sponsored by Saving Gracie. And then Neighborhood Santa, some of the updates for Neighborhood Santa. We were able to collaborate again with the Police Activities League, and they built the float again for the parade. But then new last year, we were able to do vote for your favorite float. And so how that worked is that the community was able to vote for their favorite float or vehicle or truck. It was just a new element, and they loved the new element. So we had PD and fire like we had in years past, but then we added a city coach bus that got all decorated. And then we added a Recology garbage truck that got all decorated, and Recology won last year. And then we also had the Grinch that was a part of it. So we will be adding more vehicles. I can add up to 3 to 5 more vehicles. So there will be more vehicles in the parade. And then we have Dia de los Muertos. So last year with Dia de los Muertos, it was our second year doing it. It was still on a Thursday. It was in the evening. And the goal last year was really to incorporate more art and more vendors. And we achieved both of those goals with flying colors. And so new this year, Dia de los Muertos will be on a Saturday, and it will be longer. So very exciting to move into this year. Connecting with our community. So we can't do what we do with special events, especially with our events and how much they're growing, without the people that we work with and the volunteers. So these are a couple of the different organizations that we've worked with, especially for bunnies and bonnets. We need anywhere from 20 to 30 volunteers just to make the event run smoothly and safely. Same thing with Vacaville, because our footprint is so big. It takes place at Walter Graham Aquatic Center. It takes place in the parking lot at 3 Oaks. It takes place off-site a little bit on the nearby bike trail. Because it's got such a large footprint, we have staff. We have a good amount of staff, but we need more eyes just to make it safe. So being able to work with these different organizations is key. Always looking for more volunteers, always. And then we also had some new events last year. We had our Paint on Main event. So that was a neat collaborative event that we hadn't done in the past. So that took place in Town Square. It was on 2 different Fridays in September, and we collaborated with Downtown Vacaville Bid, Joyful Art Studio, School of Rock, live music. So just really trying to bring in the different groups and put on an event together. So Joyful Art Studio was able to do like an outdoor paint night. It was lovely. Both evenings did sell out. And then also we had our Merriment on Main event that we'll never forget. It was great. So new on the horizon, we have a multicultural art festival that we're looking to bring in May of 2025. So I've just started the conversations, just the tip of the iceberg with some of our local groups in trying to put together what this might look like. A few years back, I had visited the Elk Grove Multicultural Art Festival, and it's a 3-day festival. So maybe not starting with 3 days, starting with 1 day, and being able to bring something like that to Vacaville. Again, a list of some of our collaborators that make these events successful. Downtown Vacaville Business Improvement District, Visit Vacaville, the Vacaville Art Gallery, Joyful Art Studio, the Vacaville Swim Club, Los Cochinos and Danzantes Unidos. Some of the challenges that we've had in special events is securing staff and volunteers for the growing community events. Like I shared earlier, the key to having a safe and successful event is really having that volunteerism. That having more eyes, we work as a community. I can't see it all. My staff can't see it all, but the more eyes that we have at an event, the more vigilant we can be. If you see something, say something. That's something that I share with my staff during a staff training right before any event. Securing sponsorships. So I've been able to maintain the relationships that I've had with the sponsors from year to year. I create small goals of adding maybe 1 or 2 more sponsors, but just continuing to secure those sponsorships so we can offer these events free or low cost to the community. And then finally, inflation. the cost of living has gone up. Yes. And so everything has gone up, fireworks and fencing and bathrooms, you name it. It's more expensive. And finally, our accomplishments. So like I shared earlier, some of our accomplishments are bringing new events to the community, like the Vacaville Triathlon. We hadn't done that before, and now we're doing it a second year and making those fine-tuning and making those adjustments where needed. And currently, I meant to bring those numbers. I did a roster. I know that some of the age groups are already full. We have a wait list. So, and one thing I was going to add, we are adding, it opens this Friday, we are going to add another age group, a 15 to 18-year-old age group. So that's just being able to expand the event little by little, year after year. And then adding new layers to events, like I shared earlier with Halloween, adding the tennis component using our in-house contractors, or adding new games that are entertaining for the community. And then the partnerships with internal staff and local businesses. I work with fire, I work with PD, IT, everybody, finance. And so it's being able to have those relationships, build those relationships, and work together. And then I just got back from CalFest last week. CalFest was amazing. So it was down in Anaheim, and some of those takeaways, you go to these trainings, sometimes it's so hard to step away because there's always the work to be done, but you go to these trainings because you get re-inspired, and you remember why we do what we do. And so that was my big takeaway, is to remember why we do what we do. And it's about the community and about giving back, but also bringing people together in that safe space. And then we had our cashless option that we added to Creek Walk. Well, we used it across the board throughout all of our events now. We won't go back. No. We're doing half and half. Do you have any questions or comments about special events?
Guess is we do.
Oh, that's good. I welcome your questions and comments.
I have Commissioner Oz on the board.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Kristen, for your presentation. I just love your energy and your passion. I mean, it really comes through in your presentation. So,
thank you.
I think there's a lot of great things about Vacaville, but I would say near the top of the list is our special events. I just love how, and I've said it many times before, I just love how they bring the community together. So thank you for that effort. My question is I think an interesting one. Do you have any events that you would like to do that you might have like a funding challenge or a logistical challenge that you think would be good, but you're just sort of been struggling with being able to get it done? And then at the same time, has there been any requests from the community for a similar type of an event that we might not be able to execute because of financial challenges or logistical challenges or something like that? Just
Wants your pie in the sky.
yeah.
Thanks. My wish list.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
And if you had triple the staff that you have now, so don't worry about, what would those look like?
Oh, wow. How long are we going to be here? I'm just kidding. Let's see. You said logistical, so I'm just going to go there to start. I can think back of like Vaca Triathlon, just to start with something like that. I know logistically, Vacaville only has one pool. And the place where the pool is ideal, kind of, because it's very close to Butcher Road and access to Pina Adobe. And I know that initially that event, I was hoping to have it for adults. And it wasn't working in that way to have it for adults. So we downsized it so that we could offer it to kids. So I don't know if I had a wish list, maybe another community center that has another pool. Yeah. You said big, right? This is like Christmas. I would say another community center with a pool. That would be a big one. Let's see, other events. I'm sure I can think of more. Wish list. Can I come back?
Of course.
Okay,
I
and
know
can I
that's a big
email you?
question.
I don't want the, if there is like that magic that you can bring, and let me consider.
Yes, I mean, we want you to know that we support you, and we want to support those events that you come up with. So, and the community's events as well. And they're not always easy to execute, but
Yeah.
you were able to do it, but we wanted to support those.
Thank you. I know that I think one of my favorite things to do is to be able, it's all about the relationships and being able to build those bridges in the community with the local businesses and the sponsors, but then the community itself. So even though it's a year away, even that multicultural event, how to bring that. We have budgeting for that. We've set money aside, but how can we even make it better? Something like that. I know I went to a Filipino evening. They got a grant to have this Filipino dance group come, and they're out of San Jose, something like that. Like, to be able to bring more of that entertainment piece would be amazing. It makes the event all the more colorful and enriching.
Sure, that's always your goal, is to make an event bigger, more participation, and more impactful, so yeah.
Yep.
Sure.
I want them to remember and have those memories.
Great. Thank you, Kristen.
Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Oz. I have Commissioner Gutierrez next.
I just wanted to say thank you. I mean, I've been out there with you on creek walks and those late nights and Melody as well, and it takes so much, and you're giving up a part of your life too, because you're there at nights and weekends, and I know it's a lot. And year after year, the way that we're growing and also bringing together the entire community for these events, and they're really, that's amazing, that multicultural event. And there's just more and more events where I think everyone in the community are seeing pieces of themselves in these different events. I'm curious because I'm still hearing, I'm the biggest advocate. If I hear anyone say, I still hear oh, I don't want to go to Creek Walk. They always have the same bands. And I'm like, no, they don't. Like, do you go?
Yeah.
But what can we do as far as really spreading the word about these events? I feel like a lot of people hear about them after the fact, like a neighbor went or they saw a picture on Facebook. But what can we do? I don't know if there's billboard space or what we can do to really tell people we have these amazing events going on.
I do have some ideas.
Okay.
I know that one idea that I haven't done yet, and maybe perhaps you have a connection and you can build that bridge. You can help me build that bridge. Is that car dealerships, local car dealerships, being able to work with some of our local car dealerships. I know pre-COVID that we did have a relationship with one of the dealers, and I know it went away at some point. And I don't know the reasons, but being able to, I know they have a very big email that they could email blast a lot of people, like thousands of people. So I feel like that would be a great way that we could tap in and help spread the word. There was a two-parter to your question. It was getting the word out. What was the other part?
Just getting
the word out.
Yeah. The other part was my thank you to you and appreciation.
Well, and thank you.
Of course.
Thank you for your thank you. I appreciate that. I had two thoughts. I should have written the first thought down, but I didn't.
Are we doing like sponsored Facebook ads, like putting a big budget behind? Okay.
The other thought, okay, it came back. Thank you.
No
I
problem.
appreciate that. So the website, I think another way to engage people and really paint the picture. I'm a real visual person, so to be able to paint that picture for people is videos. So if we could put videos, which I think I might have forgotten to show you one of my videos, which I will come back to. Paint that picture for people on our website so that when they come to the website, they can read about it, but they want to see, they want to feel, they want to hear what it's about.
Right.
And I feel like on that note, I might show you my video that I forgot to show you. So if I can take a little bit more of your time. There it is. Nice. Did I miss it? Oh, maybe. One more time. There it is. Glad I didn't forget it.
That's amazing.
Glad you got to see that picture. And see, just being able to watch that, it's a minute of your time, but it paints that picture of what Vacaville is bringing and what kind of events we have. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Gutierrez. I have Commissioner Frazier.
Thanks, Kristen. Hey,
Hi.
all I know is that whenever I'm in your office or anything like that, you are like busy and packed, and there's like tons of stuff happening, and there's things
There's a
stacked
lot.
all over the place. And
Don't judge.
So,
I know you don't.
so I know that you are busy. I know your staff is busy doing just like, these are awesome, awesome events that you guys do. So thanks for doing all that.
Thank you.
But the question, and you know what else I think is helpful are those signs. You know how like I've seen like all the Vaca Try signs around and stuff like that, and all the parks and things like that. So I think that's really helpful. And I've had some friends, come over and say, hey, by the way, do you know about that Vaca Try? And it's like, oh yeah, let me tell you about that. So so anyway, I think those are really helpful too. And so and I like the videos.
Are those the banners or the lawn signs or
Lawn
both?
signs, and so yeah, I see those all over the place. And so that's great. I did have one question. I just thought about this. Do you do any kinds of evaluation after the events and get feedback? And
I do. I absolutely do. So typically what we do at the event, we'll have just something on a tree that is like scan the QR code and they can do it with their phone. It's right there. I try and capture as much as I can from the audience that has experienced it right then and there. And then usually we'll have like a follow-up on Facebook where it's like, okay, so if you didn't have a chance to take our survey, here's our survey so that they can still take the survey even after the event. Yep.
Good.
And then so a little bit just about my process. So when I go into planning an event, so part of the process is looking at those surveys from the year prior, looking at the debrief from staff. That's the foundation that we start from when we start going into the new year of planning these events. Yeah.
Well, again, thanks. Thanks a lot for all you do.
Thank you. And thank you so much for collaborating.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Frazier. I have Commissioner Shea next.
I love the video. Thank you for all that you do. I know how hard it is to plan community events. It's like all hands on deck for a lot longer than people realize. I love the video. Has there ever been any consideration for running like TikTok ads or Facebook Reel ads with little videos like that? And like tagging the ads for people like in, Vacaville or Solano County, because that's really, it's visual, and I'm a visual person too, so that really did catch my attention, but also like people just, scrolling on social media and then that pops up, that's gonna, really get somebody's attention.
Yeah, and I know that we do some of the geofencing, like we work with one of our sponsors, and we usually do that for that end of Creek Walk season finale concert, so our major concert, so Quad City DJs Club Nouveau. That's typically one where we will use the geofencing, but I don't think we have used it in the past, as far as I know, for the other events. That's a good suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Shea. I also had a couple of questions and comments. I know you mentioned volunteers and struggling with volunteers. I think as someone else who also does special events in Vacaville, volunteers is really hard. Have you all thought about doing like an email blast through Constant Contact to try and gather like names to put in a database? Like, if you were to send one out, I'd probably fill it out so you could keep my name and I could maybe help whenever I'm available. And then just doing blasts for each event, like, hey, we need, 5 to 10 volunteers for this event, but maybe establishing a database to start from.
I like that. I know, like, I have a few different wheels, it's like the sponsor wheel and the vendor. I'm trying to develop that for vendors, like food, non-food vendors, and then definitely the volunteer wing. So I hear you, and I think it's a great idea. I haven't done it yet. I do tend to work with the same volunteer groups, but I don't want to, I don't want them to be tired. I want to keep it interesting and fun for them. I don't want them to be tired of, yeah, that's a better word. Thank you. Exactly. I don't want them to get burnt out and not want to participate. If they love a certain event and they want to keep participating, cool. Like, I want you to be at that event. you're my volunteer group. I just want to be able to expand it. And I like your idea of just being able to create that database. I mean, I have it. I tend to organize my thoughts using like a Google Sheet. And so I do use it year after year, but maybe that's something I can start chipping away at.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the city utilizing constant contact, like you might have a broad base of contacts just within the email database now that you could just reach out to and say, hey, if you're interested in volunteering for any city events, sign up here, and then just keep people's names kind of.
I like that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Constant contact, you said?
Right, the city's using constant contact?
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. The other note that I made, the Multicultural Arts Festival. So we have a current school board trustee, Sarah Chapman. She was involved in kind of the back in the day diversity fair that used to take place many moons ago. She would probably be a great resource and a great contact to connect with on, you know, the Multicultural Arts Festival. She may be someone, because I know she's mentioned it to Vacaville People's Forum in the past that, you know, I used to do this diversity fair. So she may be a good resource, community resource.
Thank you.
Yeah. The other thing too, just I recently met with Jasmine from Designing Local, the arts and cultural master planning stakeholder meetings. And I think that, you know, this is a perfect example of where Parks and Recreation still needs support and investment. And so like all the other commissioners have said, like totally applaud all that you and your team are doing because special events is a lot of work and very challenging, and like Commissioner Gutierrez said, you spend a lot of time outside of probably your regular duties as assigned at events and making sure that they go smoothly, and just appreciate all that you're doing. But I think that that's an area to think about when we're thinking about the new arts and cultural master plan is what does special events look like for the city? How do we invest? How do we get city council to invest? And, you know, obviously you've got information and data to show that it makes Vacaville a better place to live. So thank you.
Thank you. And it's about that bigger picture.
Yeah.
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 Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Kristen, for this presentation. Just to make sure there's any other commissioner questions or comments. I don't see any on the board, but thank you so much. Appreciate the presentation tonight.
And thank you. Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Okay, so moving on to agenda item 8. This is business from the floor. So this is the time to address the commission with issues that are not on the agenda, but are within the commission's subject matter jurisdiction. There is a maximum of 3 minutes per speaker. Does anyone wish to address the commission tonight regarding a topic that's not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we will close business from the floor and move right along to agenda item 9A and ask that Director Mager-Smith introduce this item.
Thank you, Chair. This next item is a request for the commission to review and recommend to the City Council names that have been proposed for several recreation facilities. And we have Hugh Hesterman, our Senior Park Planner, to present this item.
Good evening, Commission, and welcome to our new Commissioner, Commissioner Frazier. Tonight, we have a very interesting, at least I thought it was, a very interesting subject. Gets a little detailed, and our Commissioner Oz served as the committee chair for the Facility Naming Committee, and we have our background information here to kind of clue you in on what all went into this. It was November 13th of last year that the commissioners met to review the long list of names that had been submitted by the community as a whole. We undertook at the commissioners' direction a campaign, a facility naming campaign. We received over 100 submittals from the general public. And that was for a total of 7 different new facilities. In our facility naming policy, one of the recommendations is that new facilities be named before they're put into operation. There's some very practical reasons for that. One of them is just right off the bat, you can start referring to that new facility by the correct name, and you don't have to keep trying to say, well, when that's named or something, we'll be able to refer to it correctly. So the goal is to get names before they're actually becoming in a commonplace usage. So the facility naming campaign was conducted from January 4th through February 5th. We put all sorts of advertisements on social media. We had banners at the different individual sites. We had it on our website. Just lots of ways of reaching out for the general public. And thanks to Chair Vasquez's suggestion, we also put together a special naming form, I guess you'd say. We have a standard facility naming form, but in this case, one was created that had those specific facilities listed on there. And so you could just real easily click it online and then submit your submittal with the policy or with the requirements of the policy. One thing we didn't really do a very good job on, I think, was asking for sufficient background information like the policy asks for. So that's a little bit missing from this outreach. But we did get 100 names, and I think that was really good. Then on February 21st, the committee held a public meeting to talk about those names, and we courageously undertook to try to name all 7 facilities that night. We were successful. It was a long meeting. The public that was present, I think several of them afterward told me that they really enjoyed the meeting. It was good conversation, good discussion, and a good process. So the general process was to take the names that were submitted for each individual facility one at a time and do a sequential voting system. So each commissioner, each of the committee members got 3 votes the first time, and it would help you pare down it's a little bit more time consuming to do it this way, but it pares down your top choices faster. And so we finally ended up with 3 names in priority order for all 7 of those facilities. And of those names, there were a few that had some questions. So the committee specifically asked staff, would you please check into a few of these things for us to make sure that they were appropriate? I think there was 2 or 3 of them that had personal names of people still living. We wanted to make sure that their relatives and that they themselves would be willing to be so honored if a facility was named after them. And then the last one, which I will talk about later in a little bit more detail, was a matter of interpretation of the actual name given. So let's go ahead to the next slide. This just real quickly kind of gives you an idea of all the where the different locations were for the new parks, starting in let's see if I can get my cursor going here. There we go. Up in North Village, Area Plan 2, neighborhood park located there. Actually, I should go in order, shouldn't I? Number 1, here we are, Vanden Meadows Park. So in the Vanden Meadows subdivision, as you can see on this aerial, most of the homes around here are already constructed, and we're overdue to get that park built. But one of the first things is, what is the theme of that park? What's it to look like? And having a name for it helps us establish that. Number 2, oh, that was North Village. Excuse me, no, that's 7. Here we go. Brown Street Park and Brown Street Center both were interesting because there was a desire expressed by the committee to have those connected. So the Brown Street Center is located right next to or almost within Brown Street Park, and the desire was to have a correlation between those names. And then the 4th one over here in the new subdivision of Roberts Ranch, we have a new community park. Actually, in roughly 2 weeks, we think the first phase is ready to open, the dog park. So that'll be named there. And then number 5 was the 2 Green Tree subdivision parks, both the north end and the south end. That's 5 and 6. And then finally 7, the North Village Area Plan 2. So it just gives you an idea of where they're all located. So we're going to just real quickly walk through each of those 7 sites. On the left-hand side is a column, and Tracy put these slides together. Thank you very much, Tracy. I think it works well. We have a first choice, second choice, and third choice listed. The policy specifically recommends that the commission forward 3 names for each new facility listed in priority order. So that's our goal tonight, is to convey, so that we can convey that information to the council for the final decision on what these names should be. So the first choice for this park was Unity Meadows Park. That is not exactly one of the names that was submitted. The committee added the term meadows in recognition of the meadows that had existed there. It's totally within their right to do that. I also failed to mention that as part of the naming policy, we also maintain a list, an ongoing list of names that have been submitted over the years that might be appropriate for a facility. And sometimes we'll choose off of that list because something might be just really spot on right for that. And then Eulatos Park was a second choice, and Bradley Moody Park for the third choice. By the way, if you have any questions about these, I'm just going to go through them one after the other. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to stop me. The Brown Street Park, I already mentioned that there was a desire to try to connect the 2 names of both the center and the park. The park itself, the first choice was De Colares Park, and then you can see the other 3 choices down below there. And I'm going to go ahead to the next slide just so you can see what was chosen for the center itself. First, second, and third. So there you see the second choice here did not match up with the first choice for the park didn't match up with the first choice for the center. Nevertheless, there was a lot of discussion on that, and this was done very intentionally, just so you get the connection there. And I'll go on to the next one. Roberts Ranch. This one was a little bit problematic for us in that the name that got the highest number of votes, Park of Ikojo Show, was based off of a desire to recognize the Japanese population of Vacaville, which was pretty substantial before World War II. And in the understanding of these words here, Ikojo Show, was based off of a little monument in the Vacaville Elmira Cemetery that's celebrating those. We did some research on that, trying to find out if the name actually matched up, because at the committee meeting, a couple of the committees did a quick Japanese Google translate, and that's not always accurate, but the question came up, what does it mean? And I think it was picture book, I think is what Google came up with, and that wasn't the intention of trying to recognize the Japanese residents. So we contacted there's an organization that oversees, or maybe not oversees, but seeks to honor all of the Japanese settlement in early California, specifically those that were interned during World War II. And I talked to one of their professors whose specific job was Japanese translation. And his response was interesting, because he said basically he didn't think the average Japanese person would even recognize those characters as having that meaning, but he thought it had a Buddhist interpretation of that. Now, I didn't go any further into that, but that to me knocked the meaning away from the intent of honoring the Japanese residents. So what staff did is they said, well, let's go to number 2 choice, which was Owl Park, and we just shifted those down to the committee's second, third, and fourth choices. And so the intention there would be to submit those 3 choices to council if the commission desires. The 2 Green Tree Parks, we're talking about the Green Tree South Park first, which is the one that is largely centered within an existing residential neighborhood of Green Tree, and it'll have new homes built around it. The first choice there was Green Tree Veterans Park. There was quite a bit of discussion about how the word green tree should be proposed. You notice that does not match with the third choice where it's all one word. But it is to honor those who served in the military and recognizing the Green Tree Golf Course, which is no longer there. And then the Green Tree North Park, the first choice was in recognition of the Sire family, who originally built the whole subdivision, not Green Tree, but Leisure Town subdivision, and the Green Tree Golf Course itself. The neighborhood park in Area Plan 2 of North Village, the first choice was Letters Park. And I found this one rather interesting. As a designer, I'm trying to think, how can I incorporate that into the park plan itself? It'll take some creative work. Actually, that's Nemo's job. I'll let him do that. But that was the first choice. And then Casey Sheehan Park and Pleasant Park. Casey Sheehan's name was one of those who we researched, and we affirmed that the family would be fine with that and appreciate that. And then the last thing, this is name number 8, was just a simple correction, maybe, in recognition that the school, we have 3 parks that were specifically named school parks. Back in roughly 1992, the city's general plan recognized a category of neighborhood parks, school parks, and then community parks and others. And the school park category was to set aside city-owned park acres that were adjacent to a school. But a lot of confusion erupted from that, and to this day, people think that if it's named, for example, Sierra Vista School Park, that it's therefore owned by the district, and that's not the case. That's not true. So the recommendation is just to remove the word school and keep Sierra Vista Park. This is very timely because Sierra Vista Park is being remodeled, and we want to make sure that we spend our money on the new monument sign and have it correct and cast it with the correct name. So those are the 8 choices. This is a summary of those 8. Again, we've got the first, second, and third listed on the left here for all 7 of the facilities. And then site number 8 is just the simple renaming of Sierra Vista Park. So at this point, I would suggest that if there's no questions on that the commission consider either adjusting any of these as they find necessary, or if they're satisfied with, if the commission, you folks, are satisfied with the findings of the committee and then the resulting study by staff. It can be, you could with one action, move them all on toward the city council, or if you want to discuss any of them, we can certainly do that.
Thank you, Hugh, for the presentation. I think before we take commissioner questions or comments, I'd like to offer the opportunity for Commissioner Oz or Commissioner Berman, if you all had any additional comments you wanted to provide to Hugh's presentation, since you all were part of the facilities naming committee, to share with the larger commission. Okay, Commissioner Oz.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Hugh, and particularly Tracy, for all of your work that went into this. I'm quite pleased with the work. I think one of the questions. It's a small little issue, but the spelling of green tree, is it one word or two? And I would just sort of like, if we do move those forward, that they be consistent with the development project and other terminology. That was one issue, but
I agree with that.
Yeah.
One word.
I like the one word,
Yeah.
but I want it should be consistent with the.
Well, that's our Green Tree Golf Club. That's what's only one word.
Is it all one word?
Yeah.
Yes, and the development itself is all one word. So that would be the consistent way to present that.
But beyond that, I just thank everyone involved with the effort, and I'd love to hear the feedback of the rest of the commission. We're happy as we were involved in selecting these names, and there was a lot of work and discussion. If you need us to elaborate on the decision-making process behind these selections, we're happy to do that to the best that we can.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Oz. Before I open it to the public, we'll take any commissioner questions for Hugh, and then I'll open it to the public and then come back to commissioner comments. Commissioner Shea.
I'm happy with all these names and trust the selection committee because it sounds like it was a lot of work and spirited discussion, and don't want to tinker with that. But I do really appreciate the effort to, try to represent Vacaville's cultural history in a lot of these names. And I think you made the right call for the Japanese nod name because it didn't, match the meaning. But is there, and I know you guys keep a data bank of previously suggested names, but is there any plan for, or could there be any plan for outreach to like those communities? Like you said, you talked to that professor who's like an expert on Japanese Americans that were interred in this area. Maybe they have suggestions for a more appropriate name, or reach out to Japanese Americans that were actually, here during that time, or descendants of, to try to find out appropriate names, and, for other cultural names as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't mention that we have a whole nother list of, I think, another 7 or so facilities that we did not chew on at this time around, because this was a pretty big pack of names to decide on anyway. But in the ensuing months, we hope that we need to get going on the next set, because we have a number of new facilities coming. So absolutely. I mean, I think the fact that referring to the Japanese heritage in town, that's something there's not a lot of recognition for that. We have a few little plaques, and there's the information on the website, and you can go over to the cemetery, but there isn't an awful lot more than that I'm aware of. I did, by the way, reach out to our own historical society and didn't get any additional help in that regard on that particular one. But absolutely, yeah, in the facility naming policy, the historical criteria, I guess you'd say, is really a big one. And there's a lot yet that we haven't turned over. So I would look forward to that.
Yeah, I liked Eulados Park suggestion too, but that would be like a great name for a park that was actually closer to downtown, since it
That's
said,
true.
Yeah, and that I would like to see something like that come up in the future if there's a closer park. So, but I thank you for everybody's efforts on the selection committee. You guys did good work.
By the way, Eulados Creek, of course, is named after that tribe. Yeah.
Okay, I don't see any other questions on the board, so I'm going to go. You've got a question? Question or comment?
Comment.
Can we do public comment and then come back? Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and open public comments for agenda item 9A. Would anybody like to address the commission on 9A? Okay, seeing none, I will close public comment and pass the mic back to Commissioner Oz.
I just wanted to add one comment. As we were putting together and going through these names, one of the opinions that I think the commission, particularly I was really leaning on, was our planners, that we wanted to come up with some names that they could use and incorporate in the design of these parks. And so I think a lot of these, for the most part, most of these names, you have that ability to incorporate it in the design, because sometimes if you have just a name, it's hard to do that. So like the Letters Park really provides a lot of creative opportunity for you to do something unique with that. So I hope that we were able to do that as well. That was one of our goals. It was one of mine.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Oz. I have Commissioner McMahon next.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to this committee. This is not an easy task, and I know that you put a lot of time and effort into it. I really like the names. I do have one concern and one suggestion, so I'm just going to go down. The first, Vanden Meadows, I think is a great name. Unity Meadows, I think that's a really nice touch by adding the meadows to that. When I get down to Brown Street Park and Neighborhood Center, in my opinion, I think we might be missing an opportunity here. I think Vacaville does a really good job recognizing local people that have been a part of, and our local tribes. I don't know that we have done a great job recognizing national leaders. And I think we have an opportunity here, and I think we might be missing an opportunity here. It wasn't too long ago at a council meeting, I believe it was Councilmember Chapman, introduced an idea of perhaps renaming a street in Vacaville to Martin Luther King Boulevard or Drive. That's not an easy task. That affects a lot of people. It has to be probably a new avenue or a new thoroughfare through the town. When I see this, this neighborhood facility that's going to be, I believe, the home of the Boys and Girls Club eventually. It's going to be some city buildings, I believe, as well as a park. I understand the location of it and where it's located and the people that primarily live there. I think we're missing an opportunity. So I would like to suggest, on a bigger scale, somebody that has been awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, that fought for thousands and thousands, if millions of people, and that is Cesar Chavez. I think we have an opportunity on a bigger scale, means it's a brand new facility, to make that a Cesar Chavez complex or facility. It goes hand in hand with the suggestion of the complex, the building, as well as the park there. Cesar Chavez did some amazing work. And I think about this in the world we live in right now, and you turn on the news and there's people protesting, and it gets violent. That was not Cesar Chavez. He was very effective the way he delivered his message, and I think he's a national hero, and he did a lot of great work in the Central Valley throughout California. So I would like to introduce that to the commission and see if we have any discussion of that, because I think we have an opportunity to recognize and to name a facility after a national hero. And we haven't, in my opinion, haven't really done that well in this town. So just a suggestion there. Everything else I really liked. I think you guys did an amazing job, and gals did an amazing job. I know this is not an easy task, and I'm appreciative of the work, and I would just like to leave it at that. And if we can maybe discuss that. And there's one thing that Cesar Chavez, and please forgive me if I do not say this correctly, si se puedo, or it means yes we can. So I mean, I think that goes, si se pueda, there we go, puede. Well, there we go, so yes we can. But I think that would be a great theme, and I think it works, and it includes everyone in this community. It's a name that's instantly recognized by a lot of people. So that's my suggestion, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Do I have any commissioner questions or comments? I can add just, I guess, to the discussion about, so Malaquias Montoya is a emeritus professor at UC Davis. He's internationally renowned, not just locally. He actually was involved in his artwork, was part of the UFW movement, United Farm Workers Movement. So I think in the same vein, it's a nod to the movement in terms of Cesar Chavez. I would also add my kids are Markham kids. Si se puede is all over Markham Elementary. So I think that's already kind of involved in the community or engaged in the community. Yeah, and Malaquias Montoya, even though he was actually from the Central Valley, which was how he got involved in the UFW farm worker labor movement, and did, like I mentioned, did art and posters for it. settled here in Northern California in Vacaville. His kids were raised here. A lot of the murals that you see in town on the schools, like the high schools and the elementary schools, are part of a class that he established at UC Davis that the class would go out to local communities, identify schools, and talk to the kids and say, what do you want to see at your school? And part of like community beautification and also seeing themselves represented in art at their school. And so a lot of the murals in town around school are his murals from the UC Davis murals class. And there's also some like in Winters and Woodland, Dixon area. So he is locally known, but also internationally renowned artist. And he actually has an exhibit up right now at the Manetti Shrem Museum in Davis on the UC Davis campus until May 6th, if you wanted to see some of his art. Questions, comments? Commissioner Oz.
Commissioner McMahon's intention, I support as well. We didn't talk about Cesar Chavez Park, but we did talk about Martin Luther King. And we were actually concerned about, I think there was a concern that the park would be too small, that it deserves a bigger facility. But I guess a question would be, would you be proposing to just replace choice one with that? Or maybe an idea would be to put it as one of the three choices and have the council consider them together, would be another option.
Absolutely.
Oh, no, apologies. Let me open it.
I appreciate that. And again, I'm just opening up for suggestions and some conversation. Like I said, I think as a town, we haven't done as well as we can recognizing national leaders. And I think we have an opportunity here, and it's not always easy to do. Like I said, going and renaming a street is not necessarily an easy task to do. We have a new facility here that we have an opportunity to name after a national leader. And I think it's all encompassing. It's a name that I think, the majority of the population recognizes. That's my suggestion. Again, I'm not unhappy with the names. I think one of the, and this is no reason not to name a facility, but a lot of times, if it's hard to pronounce, people will call it something else. There's a park in town that we have visited as a family for years, and we call it the Red Park because it's got, the play structure is red. And so whenever we go, we're going to the Red Park. That's how we identify the park. So again, that's not a reason to not name a facility or a park. But I just think that we have an opportunity to do something on a bigger scale. That's my suggestion. I'm just opening it up to the commission for thoughts and consideration. I'm not unhappy with the names that have been predetermined. I'm just looking for feedback from the commission, I guess.
I have Commissioner Shea.
In regards to Commissioner McMahon's suggestion, I agree with Commissioner Oz in the intent and, wanting to recognize, more national figures. I did not know anything about Malachi Montoya, and I really enjoyed right now when Chair Vasquez gave us a brief history. And I think that is a beautiful part of honoring different community figures through park naming and things like that. I just got a local history lesson, and that was fascinating to me, and I want to learn more about him. And I think that's a really beneficial and kind of crucial part of park naming. But I definitely see where you're coming from, Commissioner McMahon, and I think we should consider names like that, and put them in the bank. And like Commissioner Oz said too, maybe for bigger projects or when we have, that multi-use facility that, we put on the agenda or on that we voted for a while ago. So maybe something bigger like that would be, you know, a good venue for like a bigger name. But I do like this particular one, but definitely see where you're coming from.
Thank you, Commissioner Shea. I would say that I did not do his history hardly any justice, believe me. The man
Dabble.
Yeah, definitely. The man's phenomenal. His family is phenomenal. They've contributed a lot to Vacaville and the local area. I would also just add, I have Commissioner Bruman on the board too, but I would also just add that the Markham Neighborhood Association, as part of the community associations, they came together and submitted names for both the Brown Street Neighborhood Center and the Brown Street Park. And so I just want to acknowledge that. And actually, the names, I think, provided were submitted either by them or a community member that lives in Markham. I'm going to open the mic to Commissioner Berman.
Thank you, Commissioner McMahon, for bringing that up. Cesar Chavez, we always forget about those people. You're right, they always get put aside. It is a hard choice to, when we came to this, I signed up for this committee, especially when we were going through all the park names and suggestions and deliberations within my commissioners that were on the committee, because we just didn't vote and say, yeah, that one's good. We had to go back and forth till we finally agreed on something. But again, it's always a hard time to do something like that. And like our chair brought up, that a lot of the names that we got were from the people that actually live in the area, which was a great thing. I don't know about the rest of you, but I am open to adding Cesar Chavez to one of the three. You know, I think it would be fitting if that everybody would want to do something like that. Just, you know, not to take away from any, all the names are great, but again, it's always good to hear the other side, because we forget about certain things. So that's just my 2 cents.
Do I have any other commissioner questions or comments? Commissioner McMahon.
Here's an idea. Cesar Chavez Complex. What if the park was named after Mr. Montoya? That way, I mean, they both go hand in hand. As you stated in his history, I'm assuming they worked close together on their efforts.
Sorry, I'm just looking back at my notes. Yeah. I think it was submitted for this neighborhood center. I think something else that we talked about, that if the family was open to accepting the nomination, that then the Parks and Rec, the Vacaville Neighborhood Boys and Girls Club could incorporate arts programming into that facility, because he is an artist. And so we also talked about that. Let me go ahead and open Commissioner Oz's mic.
I would support for the Brown Street Center replacing Centre de la Paz with the Cesar Chavez Center. Cesar Chavez Center, is that what? And that way that it's we're putting it on the list, and we can share with the council that this discussion, particularly about that one, and leave it up to them.
Yeah, I would also add too that in our discussions and deliberations that we had also suggested for Brown Street Park and Center that if the Montoya family did not accept the nomination, that then we would recommend De Colores Park and Center as one of naming them. So I mean, I would, if the commission, you know, wants to move forward with the recommendation, I would also be open to adding it to the third choice and removing, that's what you were saying, Center
Yes.
de la Paz, yeah. I don't know if other commissioners have comments. I have Commissioner Gutierrez.
I don't know I have anything that hasn't already been said, but I do, and I wasn't there or involved, and I do appreciate the time you guys put into going through all of this. I'm a strong believer in listening to the community. I know that we've tried to tap into that community a lot for various like art projects and things like that, and we don't always get the participation. Either there's like language barriers or whatever the case may be. But if we're in a position now where we can say we hear you, and based on what we heard, we want to move forward with your, with your request. They are the people who live in that neighborhood, and it's a, underrepresented mostly group that lives there as well. But I do like the idea of also putting Cesar Chavez on here as an option, because we're obviously talking about it. But I don't know if we're putting it to a vote or we're just discussing, I would lean more towards whatever majority of the people who live there wanted or suggested.
Commissioner McMahon.
I absolutely appreciate that comment, and I look at the applications received, and there's 15. So I mean, that's a large neighborhood in a town of 100,000 people. We received 15 applications. So I just, again, I appreciate this. I absolutely appreciate this. I'm just thinking on a bigger scale to recognize a national hero that did so much for so many people. That's my only thought. And I appreciate the 15 applications that came in, but I don't know that represents, I mean, it still is a community or a park in Vacaville, and it is in a certain location, and I appreciate that. And again, I'm not unhappy with any of this. I really appreciate the work. It's just my suggestion, and I think we have an opportunity to do that, because this is still a long ways away. So we're talking about putting that name on a list somewhere else. That's a long ways away. So we talk about it, but we're not actually doing it. So I will leave it at that. And again, I will just leave it to the rest of the commission, and we can go from there. Thank you.
I have Commissioner Frazier on the board.
Yeah, these are some great names that the committee came up with. And I can totally see where you can incorporate kind of like building it with some of the ideas. And just like I was even thinking, oh yeah, this would be a great idea, because our kids call parks that they go to and our grandkids by kind of the features of the park. And so naming it would be great, some great features and stuff. So, but I like the idea of putting it on as a third, on number 3 as the third choice down there. And it sounds like there's going to be multiple things being built around there as well. I mean, I don't know the plans, but if it's on the list, it seems like, well, maybe something could be named, and maybe both, we could accomplish both purposes. So I think I would support putting it on this list as a number 3.
I would also just add that there's actually a typo. It should be Centro, right? Centro de la Paz? Yeah. Yeah, so if we maintain that, it would be Centro. And that was actually, that was submitted by Markham Neighborhood Association. And I think now too, like just reflecting on what Commissioner Gutierrez said, this, well, I don't know how to say this. I think we should honor what the neighborhood members submitted. And I think I'm leaning back towards what Commissioner Gutierrez was saying. And it's hard getting engagement and feedback from the community. I agree with you, Commissioner McMahon, that 100 submissions in a town of 100,000 is not very many. And we get excited at the fact that it's 100 submissions. I think we were, the 3 of us were pleasantly surprised and happy to see that we got 100. And so, like I want to acknowledge and honor the fact that the Markham Neighborhood Association obviously came together, met, discussed the names that they wanted to send forward. This is their community. I think if it was any other district, if it was the District 6 neighborhood association submitting names, we listened. We listened to the Green Tree Association. They came in hard on the Sire Family Park and provided names and letters to support that name. We didn't get folks who, came in from the Markham Neighborhood Association. And I think that, they took the time to actually submit nominations. So I think I'm actually feeling like I'm leaning back towards leaving as is, but that's my thought and recommendation. I have Commissioner. No, I mean, it's a discussion, no.
Tennis match. But yeah, that actually is a really good point, that we're not talking about replacing the names of any other areas. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this should be a vote, but again, because it has been so, to me, 15 is a lot for that neighborhood. That's a lot of participation. Like, it's really hard to get their input, and yeah, 15 coming from that area is a lot. And I just think it's our responsibility to listen to that community rather than override their thought, especially if there's other opportunities to name other facilities, either in that area or other places. Because I would feel like if I was in that community, I gave my input and then it wasn't what I saw, that would discourage me from participating in the future. But if I saw myself being reflected in the decisions, based on my choice and my neighbor's choice, that would provoke me to be more engaged. And I think that's what we want in that area.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could be acknowledged as a continued disenfranchisement of the community if we don't listen. And I would also say too, like, Cesar Chavez is, an honored figure in the history of Mexican Americans in the United States and I think that if the Markham Neighborhood Association wanted that name, that they would have submitted that. But like I mentioned, like, it's, Cesar Chavez is honored every year at Markham Elementary on March 31st. And they have, like I said, like by the bathrooms, like very simple things that say "Si se puede," like around the school. And so I think he's already a figure honored in that community. I'm going to try and, I think Commissioner Oz was next.
Thank you, Chair, and I should try to consolidate my comments, but I'm not doing a good job of that tonight. Okay. Just one point, maybe a question. At the end of our last committee meeting, we went through all of the names that didn't make it to this list and made a motion, except for a couple that we would put them back into the name bank. And I don't know if that just automatically happens, or is that sort of a motion that needs to be made as well? And just to remind those that might have submitted names that aren't being selected, that they will be considered in the next round of parks and facilities. I thought that was just important. And I think you had alluded to that, but I just wanted to.
Right. So, yes, Commissioner Oz, the policy isn't clear on who actually makes that decision, whether something is added to the name bank or not. It just simply says that a name bank shall be maintained. So I believe that I would suggest that the committee has that option. You selected, I think there was 5, as I remember, that were felt. Do you recall it? 5? I think there was a few that didn't seem to be appropriate to use for any facility, and so those were deleted. The others would then automatically be added, or staff would add them to the name bank, assuming the commission agrees with that.
Got it on my notes. That's what we did. We eliminated
So one last comment for me. I said that last time, so I apologize.
I think I said it a couple times. It's okay.
So when I look at this and we talk about listening to that community, and I absolutely agree. We have to listen to the community, and that's why we're here to voice their concerns and their ideas. But with all that said, I suggested, me personally, put a name on this list, and it's on this list. It's not my community park. It's nowhere close to me, but it's a name I suggested. So, you know, I think sometimes all-encompassing, it is a town park, a community park, a neighborhood park, whatever the case may be. It's not just the people that live in that surrounding area. It is a park that represents 100,000 people, not just the people that live in that neighborhood. And I have proof of that because I suggested a name. It's on this list, but it's not my community park. So just something to think about. And again, I appreciate the dialogue and the conversation, and I think it's good. These are all great choices. There's not a bad choice here. I just think that we might be missing an opportunity, in my opinion. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Hugh, can you remind me when the submission form went out, did it ask if they lived in that district or that area or near that park?
I believe that was not part of the, probably intentionally and correctly, I would suggest that anybody can submit. So we had the developers submit, we had commissioners submit, we had some taken off of the name bank, and of course, all those that were submitted from residents around the city.
Have to be a resident of Vacaville.
No. So for example, the developer is not a resident of Vacaville, but they could submit.
But that was submitted by the Green Tree Estates Neighborhood Association.
Correct.
Who
They
live in
supported
that
that.
area.
Yes, that's absolutely right. Yeah,
Yeah.
They supported that. submittal.
Commissioner Shea.
I am loath now to make a choice that, so I've been part of several meetings in District 3. I'm representing District 3, where they were trying to establish a community organization, and it was very difficult. And there's really, only a handful of people for a long time that were, engaged. So for them to have actually accomplished that, and for them to actually be making suggestions and getting more engaged in the community, I'm loath to change any of those suggestions. I know how hard they worked to establish the neighborhood association, and I would not want to harm. There's one of the many reasons that it's hard to engage that part of the community is that they don't really trust city government. They don't really trust the greater community. And I think that if they have made an effort to engage with the greater community, I think it could be potentially harmful to ignore that or not at least show consideration and, not honor that engagement that they've made such an effort to make. So I want to honor the suggestions that the Markham Neighborhood Association made for this in particular.
Mayor, if I could, or Chair, if I could just chime in. Got to remember which hat I'm wearing.
Oh, yeah, no, thank you.
I did, like Hugh had mentioned earlier, I just want to remind the commission that we do have a number of other parks and facilities coming up that will require names, so there are future opportunities for that. And then also for the names that we're not going to go on the bank when a motion is made, we will need to include that as in the motion, that the names that weren't chosen, except for the few that the committee decided not to move forward at all, we'll need to move that those be added to the name bank. I know that was a convoluted way to say that.
Yeah. That's okay. Your mic's still open. Do you have comments? No. Are there any other questions, comments from the commission before we entertain any motions? Motions?
Well, I'll take the easy one. I
So-
make a motion to add the names to the list that we were using our last meeting.
Yeah, Commissioner Frazier.
So I would, and I would say let's add Cesar Chavez to that as well. And so,
Okay, so an amendment to the motion. Do I have a second? Okay, so Commissioner Baruman motioned to add all of the names that were not being suggested, and Commissioner Frazier added Cesar Chavez to that list, and it's been seconded. So roll call vote on the one motion.
So I'm clear on the motion. Is the motion is to add Cesar Chavez to the bank or to that facility as a number 3 choice, or what exactly is the motion?
I'm entertaining the motion to add it to the list. The bank.
Name bank.
The name bank list.
I believe that's, the intention is for potential future use.
Okay.
But we don't have any motions on the floor yet for the recommendations, so I guess we'll get to those individually. So roll call vote on the motion on the name bank. Tracy, please. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner McMahon, Vice Chair McMahon.
I want to make sure I'm clear. So we're voting on adding Cesar Chavez to the name bank.
Correct.
Correct.
Yes.
Commissioner Oz,
Yes.
Commissioner Baruman,
Yes.
Commissioner Gutierrez,
Yes.
Commissioner Shea,
Yes.
Chair Vasquez.
Yes.
Oh.
Commissioner Frazier.
So I think the floor is open to entertain motions on the recommendations. I think we can go several ways about it. We can take one motion and do one swath of motion to entertain the recommendation, the staff recommendation as it stands. If folks want to have a formal vote on the number 3 Brown Street, based on the commission's deliberations tonight, we can also do that and then do each facility individual votes. So it's up to you all. I'll entertain a motion.
I would like to make a motion to accept the first choice name for all parks 1 through 7.
The first choice name or the entire table?
Well, the entire, I mean.
The entire recommendation?
I can have one. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna go through each first, second, and third choice, correct?
No, but I'm saying first choice is good with me for like the actual name of the park.
The entire recommendation, the table?
The recommendation should be to submit 3 names for each park prioritized to council.
As prioritized. Okay, so your motion, can you restate your motion,
Yes,
please?
is to accept the staff recommendation, the table as it stands for all of the parks.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
So motion by Shea, second by Baruman. Yes, Hugh.
There was a discussion earlier about the spelling of green tree. Would that be with the revision, so the green tree all being one word for the first and second options? Is that correct? Tracy can change that on the fly, hopefully.
Amendment?
Motion to amend your motion to add green tree this with the spelling of one word.
There, so she's got the slate changed. And we also changed, just for your information, we changed the third choice under the Brown Center to spelling of Centro with an O.
So do we need a second on the amendment?
Yes, please, thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay, so I have a second on the amended motion by Commissioner Frazier. And roll call vote, I guess.
Commissioner Frazier,
Yes.
Chair Vasquez,
Yes.
Vice Chair McMahon,
Yes.
Commissioner Commissioner Oz,
Yes.
Commissioner Berman,
Yes.
Commissioner Gutierrez,
Yes.
Commissioner Shea.
Thank you for the discussion and deliberation. So the recommendation will be as stands, and we'll go forward to City Council, and City Council will get to make the hard decision of what they will be naming each facility. And we thought providing them 3 was hard. Yeah, they'll have the more challenging decision.
Wait,
Yes, Commissioner Oz.
I thought the last vote was on the amendment to the motion, or did we need to actually vote on that amendment?
Oh, you're getting, yeah.
So there was an amendment made and a second, and so the motion was for the recommendation.
Okay.
There was a point of clarification that I apologize, Commissioner Oz, but the motion was for the amendment to the recommendation that was put before the commission.
Thank you for the clarification. Where are we at? So we are at agenda 9B. Thank you, Hugh and Tracy. They spent many, many hours putting all of this information together for the naming facility committee. Tracy did all the footwork after the fact in contacting families. Hugh did research on all of the names and translations. So thank you both so much for your commitment to this project. On behalf of the naming facility committee, we really appreciate it. And on behalf of the Parks and Rec Commission, we really appreciate it. So thank you. Thank you both. And I guess we've got more to name. So 9B, Director Magersmith, would you like to introduce the next item?
Sure, thank you, Chair. This next item is a presentation on inclusive recreational programming and park facilities, and we have Tricia Kagyat, Associate Park Planner, to present this item.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Vasquez. Welcome, Commissioner Frazier, and hello, Park Commissioners, members of the public, and city staff. This is an informational presentation tonight on inclusionary play, recreation programming facilities. No decision is asked of the Commission tonight. The City of Vacaville's public facilities and its programming serves all residents and guests of multiple age groups, abilities, and neurodiversity. It is a top priority for Vacaville to have parks, facilities, and programming be equitably distributed and accessible. Both the city's general plan and the Parks and Rec Master Plan address the need for accessibility and inclusivity by identifying opportunities and eliminating barriers for new and existing facilities throughout several goals. Tonight's presentation will highlight the city's accessibility strategy on programming, construction of new or retrofitting existing sites, and maintenance of existing parks. Participants can register for programming by visiting any of the city's community centers in person or online through Civic Rec. Civic Rec allows participants to request program accommodations through self-declared allergy, behavior, or other medical prompts. Any requested accommodation is addressed on an individual basis, which may include development of a formal accommodation plan with the city's Parks and Rec ADA supervisor. Staff can conduct an accommodation assessment if any of the local sports leagues request special accommodations for one of their registrants. Facility accommodation requests can be made through the city's ADA coordinator. The city's Parks and Rec department offers many activities to make life more active, healthy, and fun. In particular, the city's adaptive recreation program provides opportunities for sensory socialization, crafting, game nights, and nature walks for those with disabilities. For park projects, we primarily have 2 categories. We have new construction and retrofit, or repair of existing sites, which can trigger code compliance for new regulations covered under several federal and state health and safety regulations. And that includes the American Disabilities Act, or ADA accessibility guidelines, the American Society for Testing and Materials, also known as ASTM, and the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission playground standards and guidelines, which apply to equipment and surfacing. And lastly, the California Building Standards Code, also known as Title 24 of the California Code of Regulations, and of course, the Vacaville Municipal Code for Development Standards. The city utilizes a variety of play surfaces. Commonly found in Vacaville parks is engineered play fiber and poured in place, or PIP. Engineered wood fiber is a commonly used loose fill surfacing material in city play areas and needs to be contained by using edging or concrete curbs. When compacted, it knits together and it moves down or outward, providing excellent fall cushioning. It requires the addition of a concrete ramp and is considered a less expensive installation option. Poured in play, or PIP rubber, is another commonly used play surfacing material in play areas with 2 layers. There's a base layer for shock absorption, followed by a colored wear layer. The rubber does not require raking, compaction, or replenishment. It needs regular maintenance due to the surface debris, vandalism, movement in the form, erosion, poor drainage, or poor areas that result from repeated impacts. It's the most expensive installation option and requires maintenance in about 5-year intervals. Parks and Recreation staff takes into consideration the development of motor skills, cognitive skills, sensory systems, and social skills. With the understanding that disabilities come in all forms, adaptive sensory and accessibility are important considerations in the selection of play elements. The following slides are examples of existing inclusionary play features throughout Vacaville park sites. Currently on this slide, shown here, is the Fairmont Beelard Park, an example of an adaptive retrofit project that has a musical instrument play theme. The play structure has accompanying music message boards and instruments which encourage positive cognitive development. Additionally, the saddle spinners are seats which develop problem-solving skills such as cause and effect, as well as develop better depth perception and balance. Play for All has a miniature town theme, which features poured in place, surfacing, and uses cognitive development play features, such as play structure complete with zip line, which improves agility, coordination, and body strength. There's several types of information boards for education and improving communication. I have an example here, such as the Braille board shown on the right. And there's also a new labyrinth for cognitive development coming soon. And lastly, phase 2 of the park will feature an accessible ball field to use special synthetic turf to provide improved stability surfacing. Meadowlands Park received site-related accessible improvements such as pathways and ramps to ADA stalls. There's also companion seating and a new adaptive swing, which allows parents and children to sit together and cultivate balance control, and also develop spatial development and improve trunk control. An example of accessible paths, seating, basketball court, and bocce ball court was installed in Pheasant Country Park, where there's ample room for companion seating and a path of travel for wheelchair circulation. Additionally, the bocce ball court and the basketball court have pavement flush to the court surfacing for easier access. Public Works Park Maintenance staff establishes funds annually for equipment replacement, which occurs on a 20-year life cycle. Together, Public Works and Parks and Rec collaborate to select accessible and adaptive play equipment, such as the equipment at Beelard Park, shown previously. Additionally, Public Works has recently updated their policy for memorial benches to include companion seating for wheelchairs. Public Works Park Maintenance staff regularly inspects all parks for potential issues which may create accessibility problems. Play fiber is replaced on an as-needed basis and is on a 5-year review period to consider fully replacing engineered wood fiber. The city retains an on-call contractor who specializes in installation and repair of PIP rubber surfacing. Most recently, repair has occurred at the Magnolia and Play for All Park. All play fields and lawns are mowed once a week and is continually maintained throughout the year. To close, sites citywide have accessibility features that consist of one accessible ramp, an accessible route. City parking lots have the right amount of accessible stalls and an accessible path of travel to the park entrance. All equipment in city parks meet state law requirements. This concludes my presentation. Staff as myself, as well as Nemo Gonzalez, a senior park planner, Tiffany Ricci-Western, our Parks and Rec ADA coordinator, as well as Wallace Awayu, our Parks Maintenance Manager, is available for any questions or comments the commission may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Trissa, so much for the presentation. I'm going to open it up for commissioner questions. I guess maybe I should open it up for public comment first. Public comment first? I'll do public comment first. This is a time you can address the commission on agenda item 9B. So I'll go ahead and open public comment. It is 3 minutes per speaker. Does anyone wish to address this agenda item with the commission? Okay, seeing none, I'll close public comment and we'll move right along to commissioner questions or comments. I have Commissioner Shea first. I already closed public comment.
It's up to the chair whether to reopen public comment or not, but you're required to chair.
I think if the commission is agreeable, I'll go ahead and reopen public comment. So reopening public comment, and if you'd like to step forward, state your name, you've got 3 minutes.
I'm Tony Smith. Now, this is not on this issue, but I came a little late because we had practice tonight.
Sorry, the comments have to be related to agenda item 9B.
Well, I was just going to make one about the future of naming the parks. You've got a person that lived in this town that's a general, became a general with the Vaca High.
We opened public comment for 9A earlier.
It has to be for that?
Yeah,
Okay, well,
I apologize.
Yeah, I just thought.
Thank you for coming. I think if you've got comments or questions, you can definitely email Tracy and we can get it to the commission for future naming facilities. Yeah. Okay, so thank you so much. I'll close public comment now and reopen Commissioner Shea's mic.
Thank you for the presentation. I missed one part. Did you say that going forward, that because how we have somebody on staff for the PIP option for parks, did you say going forward that that's going to be like the standard or just just considered more frequently, or?
We have an on-call contractor. I think the designs will vary, and so I don't know that we'll go directly to PIP for every project. It's just more of we have one for our facilities that already have PIP.
Another question I have is, you said that people can request accommodations through the city. How do they know that? Because I didn't know that, and I am wondering, like, how do we get that information out? Potentially doing I wish I'd have known about that, so I probably would have asked you to speak in an event that happened this weekend for special needs individuals, because I think that there's a lot of families that don't participate because they don't know that they can ask for accommodations. So maybe offering presentations to community stakeholders that work with neurodiverse and neurodiverse populations and developmentally disabled. And then I know I'm coming at you with a lot of stuff. So actually just that one, and then I have another comment or question after that.
Would I be able to ask for Tiffany Ritchie Western to speak? She's our the Parks and Rec ADA coordinator.
Good evening. So we do have that listed in our activity guide, which goes out to all of our homes as well as on the website. But in addition to that, all of our programming, there is multiple prompts that come up asking specifically if there are any medical conditions, any allergies, anything of that nature. So as they are going through the registration process, those prompts do come up and those questions are asked. So while it may not be super easy to find, it is on the website and the activities guide that we do offer that, but most of those questions don't get asked until the actual registration process.
Would staff consider doing presentations to various day programs here in Vacaville who take their clients to visit parks, or Parents Empowering Parents, just to get that out a little easier? I think a lot of people aren't even considering some of the adaptive rec programs. Well, not necessarily adaptive rec, but anything outside of that, because they don't know that it is possibly going to be accessible to them. You know what I mean?
Right. Absolutely. I can leave my information, and anybody who wants to reach out to me, I'll be happy to conduct any sort of presentation as necessary.
Thank you. And then what is the process for, because real inclusion and real accessibility is really a consideration before things exist, right? What is the process for like city programs, sports, park development in, you know, like, is the city ADA's coordinator in on like the planning process for like different programs, or is it more of like a reactive where they're consulted after the fact or when like a request is placed?
Tiffany, did you want to answer for facility or for programming first?
Yes, thank you. In regards to programs, once we've identified that there is any sort of medical condition or allergy or anything of that nature, we do reach out directly to the parent or guardian or the participant themselves if they are an adult. And then we kind of go through an intake process to determine if there is a need for an actual ADA plan to be created. If that's the case, then we then go through an entire process where we schedule a meeting. We have individuals at the table from those particular programs, just be able to identify any potential situations or answer any questions that may come up from the parent or guardian. And then we create those plans. Once the plans are created, we then distribute them to the staff and make sure all the staff are on board and have a clear understanding of what's being asked of them in those plans. And then they're implemented in the day-to-day operations of the program.
So it is more, and not anything against you or the programs, but it is more of like a reactive thing once the request has been placed versus like constant, like, I mean, if we have an ADA, you know, specialist on staff, like, could they be more involved in like the ground floor planning stages of like different recreation programs and park planning and stuff like that versus like only responding when like, you know, somebody says like, hey, we have this access need. You know what I mean?
I can't speak to parks, so I will allow that to be answered over here. However, with programming, we do have the adaptive recreation, so we do seek input from the community regarding the adaptive recreation piece. However, for a lot of our standard programming, there isn't necessarily an outreach, and so it may be considered reactive, but I mean, we're giving the option to identify what those needs are prior to them attending the program so that we can make sure that we're meeting all those needs prior to them actually attending.
And Elizabeth just opened her mic. Yeah.
Thank you. So just a little bit of background. The ADA the accommodation process has been in place for many years. And so it was originally handled through the Public Works Department. One of the growing trends in our department was seeing an increased need in accommodations. Families were coming to us with a variety of social, emotional, behavioral, diagnosed, undiagnosed, lots of different things that needed to be addressed in more of mostly our aquatics and after-school programs. So seeing that growing number, we started the grassroots effort to create the adaptive recreation program. That was in 2017 and 2018 because we saw a demographic and there were people from the community who came in and said, can you do something like this? Can you do a specific program for people with special abilities? And we said, we'll try. So we did. So in 2019, the program was formalized and given a budget and given resources to hire staff for it. So that has kind of evolved through the pandemic into what we have today. What we're continuing to see is an even greater increase in the number of participants that come to us who probably their needs are more in line with what our adaptive recreation program offers. So we're seeing a shift in the trend where that's becoming the majority and perhaps participants without needs are becoming the minority. Are we at a point where we're gonna completely overhaul everything? Not quite yet. So we're kind of watching that. So right now, yeah, the program Adaptive Recreation is set up so that the folks who come to us and who want to be surrounded by like individuals or other people with special abilities, we have a space and a place for them to do that. And that's a need that we saw coming and we were trying to address. So just wanted to provide some context where that came from.
For park planning, the Parks and Rec master plan for each park designation has a goal to have an inclusive play feature. Each park designation has different age groups to include in the design. When it comes to actual play feature design and selection, I want to defer to Nemo Gonzalez, our senior park planner.
Good evening. Yeah, just to elaborate a little bit on the park planning side. So there is a pretty big distinction between who's handling what aspect of what we're talking about here. Programming is one aspect, park planning is another. And even I would say one of the reasons that we made a distinction between brand new construction and retrofits is because anything that is brand new, for instance, Roberts Ranch, which we talked about earlier, Vanda Meadows, North Village, all these parks that are coming online, they have to follow all federal and state laws. And so we have to be in compliance with ADA. We have to be in compliance with state and local accessibility laws. So there's an option to be more restrictive. That's why I list those in that particular order. But we go through a process internally where we're submitting all of our sets of plans to the building department, and they make a determination whether they have an internal reviewer or they kick it to a third party. We have CASP folks in here, but all of that stuff is vetted before we're putting things out. That I would make a distinction between brand new park projects and something like a retrofit project, or even something that is maintenance related, right? One of the things that I learned about putting this presentation together in a discussion with Wallace was that they are also amending their sort of processes. The memorial bench has never included a category for companion seating. That's something that they recently changed, probably within the last year, to accommodate someone in a wheelchair to be able to sit next to a memorial bench. So there's sort of separate categories within sort of the maintenance, which make it more restrictive. If you happen to be sort of adding a feature to an existing park, there might be a requirement to make sure that the path of travel accessing that new feature is accessible. Things like, we've got 2 existing bocce courts in the city that were not accessible. They've got a curb all the way around. So when we were going through the motion with the improvements at Pheasant Country Park and we were adding a bocce court, one of the questions that we got asked is, are you going to make it accessible? And we made a determination that yes, we need an accessible bocce court. And so what we did was we included a curb cut in that. So again, to elaborate a little bit on what Trish was talking about, the pavement and the path of travel is flush with the surfacing in the court. So anybody who is wheelchair bound can easily just maneuver from the path of travel directly onto the court itself.
That's awesome. Thank you. And I hope it doesn't seem like I'm, like demanding information. You guys are far more knowledgeable than I am about, city processes. I was just wondering what that looks like, on the back end, since we're having an inclusion presentation. So thank you for all the information.
Thank you, Commissioner Shea. I have Commissioner Berruman next.
Just to add to that conversation you guys just finished completing regarding accessibility to amendments on the park and stuff. So regarding the PIP material resurfacing, is it seeing that you're putting these in the parks, so that means all the parks are going to be PIP? Because I know it's expensive and the upkeep is expensive. And especially that you mentioned that you guys have to do something over at Play for All Park. How old is Play for All Park now?
How old is it?
How old is it now? Is it developed when we put that flooring, that PIP in there?
I'm sorry, am I understanding you correctly? Are you asking how old it is?
Well, when did you put the PIP, when was the PIP put into that park?
So you might be able to elaborate on this a little bit more, but the installation of the park happened maybe within the last 2 years, but it didn't open for several months. And so I think it's only been in use for about a year.
But you already have to do some work on because of the visibility thing problem, or is it not holding up?
Wallace, do you want to elaborate on
that? Sorry, man.
So what we found is that we think that there was the selection of the wrong material in certain areas, particularly the swing bays and the areas around the toys, the spin toys, where we started seeing heavy wear patterns. And I don't know if you probably saw as you were out there, you'd see chunks of the wear course were missing. So we went back in through the swing bays, the slide exits, and around all of the spinning toys where there's going to be a lot of foot traffic done, and we had a more durable material put in there. So we did that, and then also as part of that, they recommend a 2 to 3 year maintenance course of resealing the park. So just for, so you have an understanding, so everyone has an understanding of the cost. Just doing those two things cost us about $40,000. So each time we go to reseal that at Play for All, it's going to be about, today's dollars, about $20,000. So, and we anticipate having those costs occur every 2 years. So, and the installation of the product is very cost prohibitive. So the idea of making parks going forward as a port in place option, I don't know. Manager, see if we can get some budget, I guess. I don't know.
Right. So how many parks do we have that have that PIP on them right now?
So they're, off the top of my head, I think we have 5 of them. Okay. So if you include Play for All, there are a couple other neighborhood parks that have some port and play surfacing, but that doesn't encompass the entire area of play, just certain areas.
Do you foresee us using it? I know it's cost, but it seems like that's the more safe stuff to have, or
accessibility. It's not any more safe,
but accessible to get in.
Well, 5-bar is an accessible. It is considered to be an accessible surface.
For wheelchair?
Yes, correct. I know it is a little more difficult, obviously, to travel across, but it's considered to be wheelchair accessible.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
Sorry, Wallace, I have a question on the PIP. What's the standard warranty on the PIP?
So, depending on the level of the wear coat that you get on it with the company that we're using now, there's a 1-year warranty that comes with it. And then with the product that we placed under the swing bays and did all the replacements out at Play for All, it comes with a 7-year warranty.
So just a follow-up, when we are considering putting PIP in a park, are we also then, I guess, in tandem with Nemo and the park planner, are we looking at placing play structures that are adaptive, that are wheelchair accessible in the space that that we're putting in PIP?
Yeah, so it's always a consideration, and we should back up a little bit. So when we're having a discussion whether we're going to go port in place or 5-bar, we're talking about new construction. Typically, if an existing park has either port in place or 5-bar, we're not having a discussion about changing the fall material. We're either having a discussion about topping off the 5-bar at the existing site or repairing the port in place. But if we're having a discussion about a brand new construction site, it's always a consideration. Well, number one, all of the equipment is always, the whole depreciation for the existing equipment, that's something that is tasked to Public Works, but they have consistently reached out to our department and said, hey, can you help us with this to make sure that we're selecting equipment that is, available to everybody. And so it's a process where we're having discussions with vendors about what specific equipment is accessible. And that lands on park sites that either have 5-bar or port in place. To Wallace's point, we build some of the parks, the developers build some of the parks. So part of it is kind of out of our control in terms of preference. Ideally, we can get some port in place in there, no different than the exercises that we just did at Meadowlands. And moving forward, a hybrid approach is an option where you have a port in place kind of route within a play area and then FIBAR. So that way it's not as cost prohibitive as doing something like at Play for All, which is a substantial amount of port in place that I don't even want to know what that costs, but I bet it's pretty substantial. So the discussion has to be about everything, not only about the initial capital cost, but also about ongoing maintenance to make sure that we have the resources to actually make sure that we can follow through with the required maintenance that the vendors sort of require if they're going to validate a warranty for 5 or 7 years, right? If they're saying one of the things that you have to do is every 3 years you have to put a sealing coat, and that sealing coat costs us $20,000, but we say, you know what, this year we're low on funds, and so we're not going to do that, they might invalidate that warranty. So there's lots of things to consider. Both are code compliant, so Wallace is correct in that respect, and it's just more of a judgment call about whether we're going to allocate our resources towards something like port in place, or whether we're going to add a basketball court or some, like that's typically the way that the conversations go. And it's always in our sort of consideration that we are intending to make sure that all of the parks are equitable, or at least all of the ones moving forward that we have control of. It's at the top of the list of considerations. Okay, so then just to get clarification, so the PIP is only considered for new construction. So there isn't currently a consideration by the city to install PIP in any neighborhood or community parks as we are looking at those master plans or revitalizing those. Correct? So question? Actually, that's a really good question. So say, for instance, the Nelson plan, master plan modification, there are areas in that particular park where we're adding a whole new structure that isn't necessarily replacing everything in place. There's an opportunity for that particular park to bring in port in place. There was a cost estimate that was prepared for that, and I don't know off the top of my head whether port in place was considered for the surfacing, but I know that the overall park improvements were somewhere around 20 million, and that was just for hard costs, and that was a couple of years ago. So you could see sort of how it starts to kind of chip away at we're idealists, and we want to make sure that everything is, that we're providing the best that we can for the city, but it starts to kind of chip away at other sort of things that you plan for. But if it's a brand new park amenity, like at Nelson, where we have new play areas coming in, it can definitely be considered for that. But we're not accounting for, say, for instance, like when we were having a discussion about what we were going to bring into Beelard, even the depreciation account wasn't enough to replace the play equipment. We had to supplement that. So one other comment, and then I've got other folks on the board. I would say while the wood stuff may be compliant, and it may meet a requirement that the city has to meet, I wouldn't say that it's accessible. I was at a park which helped kind of actually initiate this presentation and conversation, and I ran into a friend from high school who has a kindergartner in a wheelchair. It is not, a kindergartner in a wheelchair cannot push themselves through those wood chips. So while it may be compliant, it's not accessible. And the parents literally have to help her move from space to space to enjoy the park. And I have Commissioner Gutierrez online. Or on the.
Yeah, I have a comment and a question, or maybe a combination of all of those. So I sit on the equity task force with the school district, and as far as Vacaville is concerned with the school district, we're not concerned. our ability to meet the needs for our special needs community is behind as far as the other cities in Solano County. We're seeing an increase in kindergartners with all sorts of different special needs, especially there's been a huge spike, I think they said in the last 5 to 7 years. So this community is continuing to grow, and I do think we need to get on the front end of it and do some more proactive things, whether it be having some roundtables with people who are in the community, parents, teachers, people who work for nonprofits, to really hear what those needs are and what those concerns are, so we can get in front of it in the planning stages, whether it comes to parks or programs. I do think that there is a huge opportunity there for us to service that community, and it's only going to continue to grow. So that was my comment. My question was also, are we thinking about accessibility not only when we're designing the park, but also how to get to the park? Because I know parking continues to be an issue for Play for All, and if you're driving, a huge van or multiple people with different needs and abilities to have problems with parking and getting them out, like that almost creates also another obstacle. So I just wanted to make sure that we're also thinking about just even the ability to get to these sites is being thought about, as well as when they're at the sites, is it truly inclusive?
Yeah, so when we are reviewing or doing park design, we do have the building permit process, and so that includes the ADA requirements for parking, access aisles, and loading. Additionally, our general plan and all our transportation studies. There's also ways to account for, walking methodologies, biking, having different size paths and accessible areas, ramping and things like that. So there's kind of a combination of that review, which occurs at the building permit stage. I don't know, Nivo, if you want to add it on.
Yeah, I'll add some tangible sort of examples of what Trish is talking about. So for Meadowlands Park improvements that just got completed, one of the improvements that we made was we made both of the ADA ramps from the parking lot accessible or code compliant. The two that were existing were not. As part of the Sierra Vista project that we're currently working on, we submitted that to all of the departments. Like Trish mentioned, it got submitted to both traffic and it got submitted to the building department, which reviews all accessibility. And one of the comments that we got back is actually offsite improvement to add an ADA ramp on the sidewalk across the street from the park to make sure that pedestrians that are coming from the neighborhood that is across the street have an ability to access the park. So just to give you a sort of idea of sort of the level of review that's occurring for these parks. Now, those kinds of things are, it's never sort of a given that that is going to be a requirement, but it's definitely a conversation piece, and the documentation that the city puts together, like the general plan and stuff, is considered when reviewing even just a small park improvement project.
And I also wanted to add on that when we review these building permits, Public Works also maintains standards, which will include, ADA updates in their designs.
Mic on, did you have?
It was inadvertently answered through other discourse.
Any other commissioner questions or comments for Tricia and Nemo or Wallace? Well, we got you up here.
I have actually just one. This one's very fast, I promise you guys.
You almost got away.
Is there any consideration, so when we're talking about putting in things like PIP or like more expensive like accessibility features, is there any consideration or any kind of prioritization given like in the master plan or in some policies and procedures document somewhere, like whether it's like a community park versus a neighborhood park, or something that's expected to be like citywide use versus like a smaller park? Do you know what I mean?
I think I understand your question, but I'm going to see if Nemo has any answers, or Hugh, just related to the Park and Rec master plan.
No, I don't think that Hugh, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that the Park and rec master plan speaks to a difference in that capacity. We always have an obligation to make every single improvement project moving forward compliant with any law that is observed, again, via the state, federal ADA law, or any municipal code ordinance. So it's typically sort of on a project by project basis, us making a determination whether or not all of the feedback that we get when we do community outreach for that particular project, whether it's going to allow for something like that to happen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, thank you all so much for the presentation. I don't see any other mics on the board. So we're gonna move right along to agenda item 10A, committee reports. And I have Play for All Committee, Commissioner Shea. Thank you, Tricia. Thank you, Nemo. Sorry I didn't get that out for the presentation.
Thank you. We've had a couple meetings since we've met here on Parks and Recreation. So a lot of good updates. Kaiser is starting to move forward and adding to their pavilion, and there are more painted pavilions out at the park, which is really cute. Some of them, it's starting to actually look like a little town out there, and the different painted community buildings look really cool. The VPEF pavilion has a student group who is going to do the theme or the painting on their pavilion. Some pretty consistent and emphatic feedback that people have been getting about Play for All is that there's no shade anywhere. So there are plans for shade sales. But of course, inflation is driving up prices. So they don't want the addition of those, and also the ones that are going in at the ballpark, to hold up development for the ballpark. So those are going to come a little later, but there are plans to alleviate the shade situation, everybody. That's been hot feedback. Fundraising efforts are underway. There is a fundraising event scheduled for October 5th, so keep that date open on your calendars. There is also a memorial bench available for dedication. You can purchase a memorial bench on the Play for All website if anybody were interested in doing so. The committee is currently working with the city on permitting for the ballpark, so that should start soon. And Rotary has just had I guess you would call it medallion, or kind of like a placard for the middle of the labyrinth made, and it looks really cool. And so they're going to start development on the labyrinth install out at the park. And I think that is all I have as far as updates go.
Are there any commissioner questions or comments for Commissioner Shea on Play for All Committee?
Or additions that I forgot from staff, Hugh?
Okay, seeing none, thank you, Commissioner Shea, for the updates. And we will move right along to Commissioner Oz with Vacaville Performing Arts Theater Show Selection Committee.
Thank you, Chair. Just a few show announcements. First of all, you might recall that we had scheduled Jimmy Vaughn and the Tilt-A-Whirl bands, the blues legend, and I was really looking forward to that concert. Unfortunately, he had some difficulties with his tour. We're not quite exactly sure what the challenge was, but so it affected our scheduled date and a couple others. So he had to reschedule his. We had to reschedule him to October 6th. He was actually scheduled in April. So we reached out to those that had purchased tickets and either offered a refund or just moved their ticket to October 6th. And there were some that did take the refund, but we're anticipating that a lot of those just wanted to make sure it happened, and they will probably end up rebooking anyway. So we're pretty confident that won't be too effective of the next show. So Jimmy Vaughn is now rescheduled for October 6th. I'm pleased to announce, if you haven't seen it yet, Nick Carter of the Backstreet Boys has got a huge tour And we landed him. His tour is called Who Am I Tour, and he's scheduled for October 20th, and those tickets are already available. And then lastly, really excited to announce the Sean Coven and KT Tunstall, a duo, will be performing on November 9th. And you might recall the names might not be familiar, but they were very popular in the late 90s, early 2000s. Sean Coven had the song "Sunny Come Home," if you recall that. And then KT Tunstall had "Subtly I See" and "Black Horse and the Cherry Tree." I've got them all on my playlist. I actually really enjoyed them. So because we actually think that'll be really popular because we're getting a 2-for-1 show in that. So those tickets will be on sale May 21st for the November 9th concert. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Oz. Any questions for Commissioner Oz on VPAT? All right, seeing none. Thank you so much for the updates, Commissioner Oz, and we will move right along to agenda item 11, reports of Park Manager Wallace Avial.
Good evening again. Just have a few things for you tonight. First, we have another memorial bench going in at North Orchard Park. This one is going to be located near the edge of the basketball court, in between the tennis courts or the soon-to-be pickleball courts and the small basketball play area there. Secondly, we saw an earlier picture of it, but we had the resurfacing at the Magnolia Park splash pad. It's been completed. The contractor is going to be coming back tomorrow to button up a couple of issues, and we anticipate opening the splash pad before the end of next week. So as it's going to start warming up, the kids will be able to enjoy that. A few maintenance updates for you. There is the resumption of summer weekend janitorial services at the rented picnic areas, which include Andrews, Magnolia, and Pina Adobe. The pickleball court renovation is tentatively scheduled right now for May 20th, and they're hoping to be completed by May 31st. Let's hope that happens. And then out of play for all, the last 4 lights around the parking lot have been installed out there. And with that, that is all that I have. Any questions or comments?
Questions or comments for Wallace? Will signage go up at North Orchard when the resurfacing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll probably a couple weeks before we'll get the signs up on the gates so that everybody knows what's going to be happening. So.
Thank you. Any other commissioner questions or comments? I did want to thank you, Wallace, for Elizabeth and Wallace for responding to my request at Centennial in the parking lot, the dirt parking lot, when the rains were heavy in February, March, and we had someone tear up the field and you couldn't park in like this whole, like probably the space of this center area. You couldn't park in it, and Wallace's team came out and resurfaced it, and yeah, put some people in some big trucks were doing donuts in the Centennial unpaved parking lot. So thank you for filling that in.
No worries, our pleasure.
People are able to park there now. All right, thank you, Wallace, for the updates. Moving on to reports of Park Planner Nemo Gonzalez with park project updates.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners. I want to introduce myself to Commissioner Fraser, Nemo Gonzalez, Senior Park Planner with the city, Hugh's counterpart. I've got some very brief updates for you all. The draft concept for the bike park at Centennial Park is currently being reviewed by the city's internal plan review committee, and it's needing some minor adjustments. The project CEQA work is proceeding nicely with a draft document expected around September, but the commission should expect to see and review the draft concept plan for the bike park sometime in June. Not sometime in June, at the June commission meeting. It's not going to be some random day, I promise. At Lagoon Valley Park, we've got some construction that is coming online for the dog park and the archery projects. They're expected to commence either in August or September, and the dog park users will be notified that they can use the dog parks at either Centennial or a new dog park at Roberts Ranch subdivision during the construction of the dog park at Lagoon Valley Park. And I think Hugh alluded to this before, but I did confirm that the dog park at Roberts Ranch is going to council for acceptance on the 14th. And so it's anticipated that the 15th of this month, we will have a new dog park. Additionally, staff is working with the disc golf club to replace the tees and baskets that were displaced by the construction at Lagoon Valley Sewer, lift station, and booster station. Some additional park improvement projects that are happening are that at Corderos Park and Nash Meso. The phase 2 for both those projects is also going to commence in either August or September. That concludes my updates. I'm available for any questions, comments.
Any commissioner questions or comments for Nemo? All right, seeing none, they'll let you off the hook this time. Thank you, Nemo, for the updates. 13A, reports of Recreation Manager Elizabeth Crisante will give us some program updates.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners. Welcome, Commissioner Frazier. Nice to have you on board. So just bear with me. My manager report is a little bit long because we've had a lot going on. The first thing that I want to talk about is VacaCon, which happened 2 weekends ago. Before we go to the next slide, because it's going to prompt a really amazing video that our media team did, I just want to rattle off some statistics for you about the event that we had. So, and also want to thank Commissioner Shea for being a judge for the cosplay contest. I hope you enjoyed it. You look like you were having a great time. It was a lot of fun. So here we go. So we estimate that we had about 2,400 attendees, which does not include children under 10 who were let in for free. 75 participants in the cosplay contest, but probably five times that many who just dressed up and came out to the con, 40 exhibitor spaces and 35 artist alley spaces that sold out, 12 event partners and or sponsors, 8 celebrities, 5 high-level cosplayers, and 4 organized cosplay groups at the local level. In addition to our kids zone, gaming station, live tattoo station, peace bonding, fandom meetups, panels, and food vendors. New this year, we debuted an Itasha car show, foam fighting, AI Hoshi cafe performances, sensory space in the library, a 360-degree photo booth in VPAT, board game prototype introductions, and a VacaCon after party, all packed into 48 hours. So when we were talking about how big events are getting earlier, yeah, we know. Staff truly did a phenomenal job. Tiffany spearheaded that with her team of people, volunteers, everyone who came out, thank you. So let's go to that next slide that'll prompt the video. Makes me tired just looking at it. So here are just a couple extra pics I couldn't resist with Chair Vasquez and her family getting their photo taken with Corey Feldman. And then just a few other photos with the car show, our live tattooing our tattooing station, and then some of our cosplay contests. So just a huge endeavor that we're all super proud of, and already, making our to-do list for next year too. So next slide, Tracy. Thank you. So one of the exciting things that we had happen in early April was we officially installed our new monument sign at Keating Park. A big thank you goes out to utilities, parks, and of course, Councilmember Chapman for using district dollars to fund the sign. This is just the first step in our efforts to spruce up Keating Park for the Pony World Series in July. So more improvements to come. And it's official. Yay. It's beautiful. I love it. Okay, thank you. And another project that we completed in late March was getting 2 new scoreboards installed at Nelson Park in between the rainstorms. We actually purchased the scoreboards last fall and have just been waiting to get out there and working around the rain clouds and the weather. A big shout out to Jason Case and Case Electric for doing the installation in exchange for having their logo on the signs. We were happy to oblige. The scoreboards work, and Girls Fast Pitch is loving them. So this was a huge success for us. Next slide. A couple of highlights for our active aging program. Last week at the council meeting, we received a proclamation for May as Older Americans Month. And so we also hosted last Thursday our Oldie Spring Fling dance. And I would like to note that the little gal on the left in the photo is in her 90s, and she's got some kick in her step. And then actually tomorrow we are hosting our Cinco de Mayo lunch there, which will feature a local ballet folklorico group, as well as food from several of our local Mexican restaurants. So really a popular event for us. We're expecting it to be sold out. Next slide. And then adaptive recreation, a hot topic tonight for discussion on a number of different things. Now that VacaCon's in our rearview mirror, staff are switching gears and trying to do a big kind of push for our new membership model for adaptive recreation that went into effect in March. And one of the programs that we are excited to offer coming up at the end of May as well as in July is our nature walk and scavenger hunt out at Lagoon Valley. So should be a good time for everybody. All ages are welcome, all levels of ability are welcome, and it also, $15 includes a picnic lunch, so you can't beat that. Next slide. Okay, 707 diving. So some of our participants just went to a regional preliminary qualifier meet this last weekend. 3 of the 4 participants medaled and are advancing to zones. Zones are actually called semifinals, but I'm speaking dive E's, so I'm trying to teach you guys what's going on in the diving world. So you'll see the 2 boys in the picture who have their medals. The girl in the middle, her name is Ava. She was actually the 3rd athlete to medal. And I just want to give a shout out to Ava. She was too shy to wear her medal in the photo, but she recently got accepted to Cal Poly through their diving program. So we're just really proud that she came up through the 707 diving program and will be representing Vacaville at Cal Poly. So the reason I have these very fun, colorful maps up here is that I also want to highlight just how big our competition is, so to speak. So in the map on the top, that's the region map. So we're obviously in the yellow, which is huge. And then the 3 kids who advanced go to the bottom map, they're going to be in an even bigger competition in the zones. So once they if they advance from zones, then they'll be competing at the national level, which is going to be really exciting. So the zones are going to be held in Novato at the end of this month. So I think we should all make a field trip and go down and support them. Typically, most of the competitions at this level are held far away out of state, so it's exciting that this one's going to be nearby. And I think that is actually my last slide, so if you guys have any questions or comments, I am happy to answer or comment back.
Any commissioner questions or comments? I have Commissioner Shea.
I did really enjoy my judging opportunity at VacaCon, and I just wanted to reiterate, give a huge shout out to the effort that it took for you guys to put that on. It was fantastic, and I think that people just hear like, oh, it's a fun event, you know, it's a con. Maybe a lot of people aren't that into like different fandoms or comic book worlds, but I didn't even know myself how important it is for so many people through judging and doing the pre-judging and having like one-on-one conversations with like the costume contest participants. This is like their whole world, and it is a way for a lot of neurodiverse people to engage with the greater community that share their interests. I got emotional while hearing a lot of their stories. The young woman who was Donatello said, I chose him because he's on the spectrum and so am I. And I feel like I just really relate to him because of that. So like, while it might just seem like a fun thing to do for a lot of people, it's very, very meaningful, and it's really an important way for them to engage with their community. So thank you so much for putting it on. I know it's a massive amount of work, but it was fantastic, and I was so excited to be a part of it. So thanks again, guys. That was great.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we've noticed with the event is that it really allows people to come out and just be their most authentic selves. And if they want to wear a costume, they can, and if they don't, they don't. But there's a little something for everyone, and it's a safe space where people can express themselves.
Yeah, I would definitely echo. We got to go this year because usually Saturdays in April we're at baseball games. And so with the 2-day event, having the Sunday option was really great to be able to take the boys, especially my older one, my middle, and they just had a great time. And I got to fangirl out on Corey Feldman, made some great connections, and just got to see, I spent a lot more money than I expected. Too much money in one weekend. But you know, we got some cool Legos. We got a cool cookie. We got a sword. We got pictures with Corey Feldman, got an autograph. I mean, what more could you ask for in one Sunday? So just echoing, great job, everybody. It was very well organized. I knew where to go. People told me where to go. The food was great. I mean, everything was just really, really great. So appreciate that. I did have one question about the Keating Park sign. Did we keep the original?
Yes.
And will it go up somewhere in the park?
Maybe.
Maybe, okay. For consideration.
We can chat.
Yeah, okay, for consideration. Okay, thank you so much, Elizabeth, for the updates. I don't see any other mics on the board. And we will move right along to 14, reports of interim director Georgianne Megger-Smith.
Chair, and welcome Commissioner Frazier. It's great to have you with us. Couple updates. We do have 2 vacancies with our recreation supervisors. That recruitment is open right now, and it's going to close on Monday. So if you know any fabulous recreation supervisors, please encourage them to apply. We are also still recruiting for summer, a variety of positions: aquatics, lifeguards, preschool instructors, recreation specialists. And anyone who's looking for jobs can go to the city's website, CityofVacaville.gov /jobs, and see everything that we have open. Quick update on the department assessment that we're undergoing right now with Matrix Consulting. We have provided all of the data that they've requested. We did a facility tour with a consultant. We spent all day touring our facilities and parks and really showing them all the things that we have in Vacaville. And then the next step is for them to provide us with a draft current state assessment of the department. I think we're expecting that the next week or 2. We are also actively working on our arts and culture master plan, designing local as a consultant. They've been holding stakeholder meetings. We've also, with Melody, they did a city art tour on April 22nd and saw anything and everything art related in Vacaville. We've been doing some public outreach, tabling at the Loop Lagoon event and also at VacaCon. We also have a community engagement survey open, and if you go to CityofVacaville.gov/arts, anyone can find that and participate in that survey. We also have a call for artists and our request for qualifications and proposals due May 22nd for kind of a community art project, also available at that website. And the summer events guide, the much awaited, it is on its way to households right now. It should be in households by Monday. So check it out and all the things that we have to offer. And then last but not least, we wanted to provide the commission with a list of the committees and subcommittees that are available. There is no action needed on this item tonight. It's in your packet, but we wanted to let you see what they are so that at the next meeting, I think the chair would be open for volunteers to kind of fill some of these committees. And I think that is it for my updates.
Do I have any commissioner questions or comments for Director Mager-Smith? All right, seeing none, thank you so much for those updates. Where am I? Okay, so moving right along to the most important agenda item of the night, agenda item 15, appointments. So 15A, appointment, election of chair. So as you saw in the packet, the list of committees also included a description of chair and vice chair and the role and responsibility of the chair. And so this is usually annually done in the April meeting, at the end of the April meeting, but because we didn't have quorum, we didn't meet in April. So it's right here on the May agenda. And so I would love to open the floor for nominations. As most of you know, Commissioner Frazier doesn't know this, I've chaired 2 years. And I'm ready to tip the hat to anyone who is willing and able to take on facilitating our Parks and Rec Commission meetings and working with the staff on the agendas and, yeah, serving in capacity as chair and facilitating discussions with the commission. Well, I know it's crickets because not everybody's jumping up to do this, but I would love to nominate Commissioner Oz. And so I will put a motion on the floor. If Commissioner Oz is willing and able to serve as the chair for Parks and Rec, I will throw the motion on the table.
Second.
Thank you.
Well, I was waiting for him to say.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Here, let me open your mic.
Go ahead.
I would welcome, accept, and be honored. So I would welcome the nomination.
Awesome. So a motion by Vasquez, a second by Gutierrez, and a welcomed nomination by Commissioner Oz. So roll call vote or all those in favor?
Do all those in favor.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, awesome. Well, congratulations, Commissioner Oz, future chair-elect here. And we will move right along to B. So I'll finish facilitating the meeting, and then Chair Oz will take it on next committee meeting, commission meeting, is election of vice chair. I will open the floor for nominations. Oh, the crickets.
Or volunteers.
Or volunteers. Go ahead. Do you want me to open your mic? I'll open your mic.
I'd like to nominate Commissioner Gutierrez as vice chair. If she's willing to accept.
Oh my God.
Good.
Okay.
I just worry because you guys know I'm the one that works in Oakland, so I'm usually the one like running in here last minute, but I think we can do this.
Yeah, I mean, usually we are in communication, myself and Vice Chair McMahon, if I'm not going to make it, he would facilitate my absence. So you all can communicate. Yeah, I think you got this.
Yeah.
What a great new team. Okay, so we had a motion by Oz and a second, was it McMahon? I can't remember. Okay. And for Commissioner Gutierrez to serve as vice chair. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Congratulations, Commissioner Oz and Commissioner Gutierrez.
Congratulations to you.
Yeah, I am so ready. I'm like, can't wait. Oh, wait, we still have reports of commission. So thank you all. I have appreciated serving as chair for 2 years, but I'm very happy to move it along in June and sit at the dais and not have to press buttons or worry about anything that's happening behind the scenes. Okay, so moving right along to reports of commission, we will start with Commissioner Oz.
Well, first of all, thank you everyone for your vote of confidence. I certainly appreciate it, and I will work hard to meet, to rise to the level of the leadership that's been provided by the current chair over the last 2 years. And I would hope that she would serve as an on-call consultant to the chair.
Yes.
As we go along. I don't really have anything else other than, again, just want to welcome Commissioner Frazier once more. I really look forward to working with you. And I was just thinking about how long of a meeting this was and to initiate you into your first meeting. But then I remembered your background being with the school district and thinking, you're probably not unfamiliar with long meetings. So, but welcome.
Thanks.
All right, Commissioner Berruman.
Yeah, ditto on Commissioner Oz. To Commissioner Frazier, welcome. And Mr. Oz, congratulations on your new chair. And Commissioner Gutierrez, congratulations. Again, praise to the staff. You guys do an awesome job. I know we keep growing and not facilities and not enough pools and not enough this, but somehow you guys make it happen. Much appreciated. I think community appreciates, and it makes our job in the commission a little easier, and you have to come in to do things, you know what I mean? You guys are pretty much on top of it. Appreciate you guys.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Frazier, I do this alphabetically. Okay. So tag, you're it.
Hey, you guys, well, thank you for welcoming me. I'm looking forward to being a part of this. I'm really, our family and myself, we're committed to Vacaville and to recreation in Vacaville, and committed to help support in any way we can. And so I'm just here to just help out, and I'm looking forward to working with you also. Thank you very much. And the rec department, awesome department. You guys do great. So.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Frazier. I have Commissioner Gutierrez next.
To get used to that, my position dropped a little bit lower. I was ready to talk and I forgot F becomes before G, so. Thank you, Chair, for what you've done these past 2 years and kind of leading us, and excited that Commissioner Oz accepted, and I know he's going to do an amazing job, and hopefully he won't be absent at all. But I'm happy to support you. I'm happy to support you if you are. And welcome, Commissioner Frazier. You've already just been a valued member, and I love what you added just tonight at this very long meeting. So get ready for this very fun, wild ride, but welcome. And I wanted to say on Friday, my son's basketball team made it to the playoffs, and the playoffs were held at the gymnastics center, and the floors are amazing. Everyone was talking about it. Everyone was like, oh my gosh, when did they do this? The scoreboard was up, working. I mean, it felt like we were just in a different place. So it was very exciting to see. The kids were taking off their shoes and sliding with their socks. Unfortunately, my son got injured, so there's an injury report with the last name Gutierrez. That was my kid. Yeah, it was a whole thing, but the floors were amazing. Yeah, no, it wasn't from sliding. Also, I want to thank Commissioner Shea for having an awesome event this past Sunday for BU. It feels like the special needs community has kind of been like this topic tonight, and I think it's a good time to just loop in just a congratulations for a successful event. I think the part that touched me, because I watched several videos, unfortunately I was not able to attend because I had a healing child to tend to, but just hearing about the resources that you were able to coordinate that parents just had no idea about. It was also nice to see Officer Jeremy Johnson give you special props. He's been there every single year, and with him leading the puzzle project with the police force and being a special needs father himself, like just your guys' partnership and seeing that grow over the years is also amazing, and all the support that you get from the city through all the different departments, like just kudos to you. I can go on. Also, I attended Loop the Lagoon. This was me wearing my VPEF hat, but I was still a commissioner there and was able to check in with Melody. And it's always just so nice to see there was over 500 runners that registered, and just being able to see, I just get chills every time when I see these legacy community events, but also to see some of the work that I haven't been out to Lagoon or I haven't been out to the park in a long time, but to see some of the work that's already being done as well, and some of the roads that are being paved that weren't. But yeah, that was an amazing day. It was very cold that morning, but it's really nice to see the community coming out and enjoying the parks as they should. Also, I was able to attend the Arts Advisory meeting on April 10th. That was good to be there, and I'm excited about seeing Club Nouveau at the Creek Walk. And that's it for me.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Gutierrez. Vice Chair McMahon.
Well, thank you very much, and welcome to our new commissioner. I look forward to working with you. As a past chair and now a past vice chair, thank you to our new, and congratulations to our new officers, our new chair and vice chair. I think it's really important for any commission and even our committees that we rotate seats. It brings fresh ideas, it keeps things active, and I think it's healthy for the commission. So I look forward to working with you in your new capacities. And to the staff, thank you as always. You guys are rock stars out there, and you make all this happen, and you make it really easy and enjoyable to sit up here. So thank you to all of you out there. And that's it. Thank you. And thank you to the chair for the past 2 years. Really nice job. And it's been a pleasure working with you over the past year. And yeah, it's easier to sit on the sides of those now.
I can't wait.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Outgoing Vice Chair McMahon. Commissioner Shea.
One more quick VacaCon shout out, because I was watching you guys just when I arrived for my really short, tiny role. That was fantastic. My family really enjoyed it. So thank you again for that. And I also want to thank staff, Public Works, for their help with the BU event and facilitating all of that. That is a rather hairy turn-in from that main road on Elmira into the park. And people, it's kind of like the Wild West out there. So I really appreciate staff's efforts to help make that a little safer. Thank you to the Adaptive Rec Program and staff for coming out and tabling the event, to the Vacaville Police Department for tabling the event, and Chief Schmutzler and Officer Johnson for speaking at the event. about the efforts that the police department is taking towards, not only running the puzzle project, but also training their officers in how to respond to people with neurodiversity and special needs. They are doing something actually that's not that common yet, and did a specialized training. So kudos to them, and I'm really appreciative just for all of the collaboration for that. So thank you to city staff and everybody. And congratulations to our new commissioner. I'm very excited to have Commissioner Oz as our chair. Thank you, Chair Vasquez. It's just been a pleasure. And I hope that you don't have to serve as vice chair, because that seems really averse to you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Shea. And as my last report as chair, I apologize, everybody. I didn't do the 2-hour bio break. I thought we only had like 20 more minutes of the meeting left, and we had quite a few more agenda items, so I apologize. And welcome, Commissioner Frazier. Looking forward to working with you, and looking forward to sitting farther on the ends of the dais and not in this seat, but happy to pass the baton off to Commissioner Oz and Commissioner Gutierrez. I had a great role model in Commissioner McMahon stepping into the chair role and working with City Attorney Borba and transitioning into chair and like what to do. And then City Attorney Nam came in and helped us. So just very appreciative of the team and Parks and Rec team and all that you do to support our commission. I know it's a lot. You all are here late. Obviously, we're here late tonight. But just a quick few updates. So March was, we didn't meet in March. Wait, no, we met in March. March was Women's History Month, and just wanted to do a quick shout out to city employee Judith Franco. She was highlighted in March as a inspiring woman of Vacaville. And she works in the police department in PAL. And one of the things that she wanted highlighted was they always need volunteers. So speaking of volunteers tonight, they always need volunteers for their Junior Giants League. And that is coming up. And so if folks are able or willing to help out with the Junior Giants League, they always need help. So that is coming up in the summer. Speaking of the Arts and Cultural Master Plan, I was able to meet with Jasmine and looking forward to all that comes out with those conversations with stakeholders and the survey. And so I think let us know as commissioners how we can help get the word out. I think you probably we need to get more info out, or if we know artists, like definitely letting the team know so that way we can get their names so they can meet as a stakeholder with Designing Local, because I think it's really important to connect the local artists with this project. I also attended the BU event on Sunday, and Commissioner Shea, as her Vacaville People's Forum hat, but also as commissioner, put on an amazing event and doubled the resources in size. So I think last year we had like half or like 2/3 of what we had this year. And it was just really great to see the community come together and support special needs and special needs awareness and differently abled folks and neighbors in the community. And it was just a really great celebratory event, and just applaud you for all that you're doing in advocating for resources and support for the community. And I think with that, I get to adjourn tonight's meeting. Last time as chair, and happily awaiting my commissioner seat back. And so we will adjourn to the regular meeting of Wednesday, June 5th, 2024 at 6 p.m. Good night, Vacaville.